السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد فقولوا معي: اللهم إني أسألك. لا أسمعكم جيدا يا أيها الطلاب، قولوا معي: اللهم إني أسألك علما نافعا ورزقا طيبا وعملا متقبلا اللهم بك أمسينا وبك أصبحنا وبك نحيا وبك نموت وإليك المصير. رضيت بالله ربا وبالإسلام دينا وبمحمد صلى الله عليه وسلم نبيا ورسولا. أهلا وسهلا في الدرس الثاني من هذه الدورة. مرحبا بكم، يا مرحبا.
مرحبا بك.
طيب إن شاء الله أعددت لكم I have prepared for you. حضرت لكم I have prepared for you درسا في بعض العبارات المهمة في اللغة العربية. I have prepared for you a lesson in some very important expressions used in the Arabic language. وسنبحث في القرآن, and we shall search in the Quran. وسنجد الاستخدام القرآنية لهذه العبارات, and we shall find the Quranic usage of these words. طيب قبل ذلك, before that, يا روبون, هل تريد أن تقول شيئا? Do you want to say something?
Not really. I'm just checking up on numbers, and I know there are some people that may or may not have received some emails, and I just wanted to make sure that people are checking their junk mails, because these are being sent, and I think there's an issue with the heightened security, given that we've just come through the festive season. So a lot of email providers are probably flagged up mass emails as spam. So I just need you guys, if you're looking for your emails, they should be in your junk mail. And if they're not there, just drop me an email, and then I should be able to send you the materials.
Okay, inshallah. So those who haven't received it, they've probably not got their email, and they won't be here, I guess.
No, they've all registered in Zoom. So with Zoom, it's a matter of just they've been sent reminders about the Zoom, because with Zoom I use a Zoom server. So it's a matter of selecting all the students and just sending a Zoom reminder. So the Zoom links they will get, that shouldn't be a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's sent by Zoom server. I think the only thing is about the videos. Hopefully most of you have received the videos and the materials from last week.
Have you all got those?
Yes, we have.
Yeah, from
Excellent.
last week. Yeah.
Materials
Yes, we
from
have.
last week
Inshallah.
only. Not any. Have you sent anything new? I've got the last week's ones.
We haven't sent you the new notes. I'm going to share them with you now in a moment.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm just generating a G Drive link. Give me a moment. قبل ذلك كما بدأنا درسنا في الأسبوع الماضي, just as we began our lesson last week, سنبدأ درسنا اليوم ببعض الأسئلة, with some questions. هل أنتم جاهزون؟ طيب ضعوا أيديكم على على الجرس. Put your hands on the bell.
يا أستاذ الكريم، عندي ألم في حلقي، هل يمكن أن سأكون ساكتا؟
يمكنك أن تكون ساكتا. جزاك الله خيرا بارك الله فيك
جزاك الله خير.
وشفاك الله وعافاك.
إن
May
شاء
Allah
الله.
cure
جزاك
you,
الله خير.
give you good health إن شاء الله.
إن شاء الله.
طيب إذن هذه أسئلتي دقيقة. أين نحن؟ طيب, hands on buzzers. Talking is strictly prohibited.
يمنع
يمنع
التكلم.
القول
يمنع القول أو يمنع
منعا باتا.
يمنع
منعاً
الكلام
ممتاز. يمنع
باتا.
كيف نقول speech talking؟
كلام يمنع الكلام
يمنع الكلام أو يمنع
منعاً باتا.
التكلم منعا باتا. ممتاز. طيب, what's the price of the dollar today?
كم سعر الدولار اليوم؟
اليوم.
ممتاز. كم سعر الدولار اليوم? I have come for the first time.
جئت لأول مرة.
ممتاز. جئت لأول مرة. I have come for 8 weeks.
جئت لثمانية أسابيع.
جئت لثمانية جميل. جئت لثمانية أسابيع. جئت لثمانية أسابيع. The fare is £30.
السعر 30 جنيها.
الأجرة. جميل. الأجرة the fare. الأجرة 30 جنيها. Show me your book.
أرني كتابك.
Danish.
أرني كتابك. جميل. أرني كتابك. أرني كتابك. What's your final destination?
ما وجهتك النهائية؟
ما وجهتك النهائية؟ To. You don't have an extra car here. ما وجهتك النهائية؟ To. You make me feel very happy.
تشعرني بسعادة
كبيرة.
تشعرني بسعادة كبيرة. Let's do one more. If only I were with you.
يا ليتني كنت معك.
يا ليتني كنت معك أو يا ليتني كنت معكم. ممتاز. طيب. إذن سنبدأ بما نحن بصدده الآن. We shall do what we are planning to do today. I'm going to share the PDF on the Zoom chat. If there's anyone who can't download it from the Zoom chat, then please message me and I'll find another way to send it to you. So this is chapter 1 and chapter 2. We're going to go through chapter 2 today, inshallah, sir. فنقرأ من الفصل الثاني. We shall go through chapter 2 today, inshallah. طيب, have you all got that? Everybody able to download the chapter 2 from the chat? Anybody not able to do so?
No, I can't see.
No, I can't.
You kindly WhatsApp me or email, please.
I can't do it either.
Okay, give me a moment. For those of you who can't,
Can you share it as a screen on the screen, or?
I will share it on the screen, but just so that you have a copy too, I'll send it to you on.
Ustad, can you not just share a G Drive link and then share that link to the chat?
That is possible. Unfortunately, the G Drive isn't cooperating with me right now and not giving me a link. It's just saying it's not possible to do
Let me
this.
see let me see if I can do it.
All right, cool. Okay, anybody else need a copy but through another means? Okay, Rupan's going to try and share a G Drive link soon. In any case, inshallah, let's try and share my screen and make a start, inshallah. Where is my document? Let's open it. Here we are. طيب. سأشارككم شاشتي الآن. There we are. Okay, so we're going to now, last week we talked about words, different types of words. Now, what we talked about last week is not exhaustive about words. We talked about some of the main category of words. There are other types of words that we need to know about in Arabic, and we're going to come across those in the later chapters. But here, this is a really useful way to categorize the words. Who found this table useful from last week?
Very useful.
Yes, what it does is it just helps you to think of, particularly some of the new types of words. So, well, none of these are new to you really, but you think of diptotes here, but splitting the diptotes up into proper noun diptotes and common noun diptotes, because there is one difference in the way the proper noun diptotes and the common noun diptotes behave. What is that difference?
Proper noun diptotes, they don't change if you make them definite, but common noun diptotes, they lose their diptoneness.
Good. So the proper noun diptotes are forever diptotes. Yeah, they're proper diptotes. Think of them as proper diptotes. The common noun diptotes, they're the commoners. Yeah, so they're going to change, and they're going to stop being a diptote when you put an al on them. Or what's the second situation?
If they're first or second part of Ibafa.
If they're
First or middle, I think.
first or middle,
First part,
not, yeah, first or middle, not the last word of
not
the
the last,
Ibafa.
yeah.
Good. If they're the first or the middle word in an Ibafa, then you will lose the diptoteness of these. Okay. Then you have these words here: ma'nan, asan, muthannan. These are maqsoor words which end in an alif. Usually an alif maqsoora, but you can also get this alif mamduda here, like asan. And those words just sound the same no matter where they are. All right. So you say هذا معنى صحيح. This is a correct meaning. If I say في, I say في معنى صحيح, in a correct meaning. أريد معنى صحيحا. I want a correct meaning. You see, so the word معنى stays the same. Then we have these maqsoor words which are diptotes, so you don't have a tanween on them. Musa. So you say هذا موسى. أنا مع موسى. رأيت موسى, in all three situations. And then this final box here is the manqus word, and that word is the word that lost a ya at the end. Yeah. Da'in. Instead of saying da'iyun, we say da'in. Da'in. We looked at some of these words as they appeared in the Qur'an last week. All right. But this ya in this word da'in comes back in several situations. It comes back when the word is made feminine. So you'd say da'iyatun. A female caller is da'iyatun. Just as we had, how do you say I am coming using a maqsoor word? I am coming.
أنا آتٍ.
Ana atin. Good. Ana atin. I am coming. And how would a woman say I am coming?
Ana
Ana atiyatun. Good. So can you see that ya coming back there? Ana atiyatun. So that's the first situation. The second situation is when you put an al on the word. So you have ad-da'i. Ad-da'i, and you put a sukoon on there in the default and the down situation. But you say ad-da'iya with the fatha in the opposite position. Okay. So قال ربنا تعالى في القرآن بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وإذا سألك عبادي عني. ما معنى هذا؟ وإذا سألك عبادي عني.
When my servants ask you
Good.
about me.
About me. And when my servants ask you about me. Who is this addressing?
Rasulullah sallallahu
To Prophet
Rasulullah.
Prophet Sallallahu
Nah,
Alaihi
the
Wasallam.
Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي عَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ.
Indeed, I am near.
Indeed, I am close. أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاعِي. I reply.
Respond when he asks.
Good. I respond to the call of the caller. Ad-da'i. So there we have a al, and then the ya appears on the word ad-da'i, like al-ati, al-madi, as-safi, and so on. Okay. So that situation, the ya comes back. Then the ya also comes back when you make this word indefinite. So if you say, I want a caller, you say uridu da'iyan. وداعيا إلى الله بإذنه وسراجا منيرا. وداعيا. So Allah says that He sent the Prophet Muhammed as a da'i, as a caller, and the verse is وداعيا إلى الله. داعيا. So when you go up, when the word is indefinite, the ya returns. Okay. So in various situations, this ya comes back, and the fourth situation in which the ya comes back is when you use the word in the beginning or the middle of an idafa. So if I say the caller of Islam, I would say da'i al-Islam, and then I'd write Islam here. All right. So we did another word that's similar, or another construction, an idafa construction similar to this, all the way back in level 1, where we learned how to say the health club. How to say health club?
نادي الصحة.
Good. So if the health club is Nadi Sihati, what's the word for just club on its own?
Nadin.
Nadin.
Nadin. Good. So the word Nadin on its own just means a club. And that ya comes back in all those situations. And in this situation, this is a very common term. Nadi, put a sukun there because we're in default. All right. We can't put a dhamma. We can't say Nadiyu. And then we have Nadis. There we are. All right. So this ya comes back also when the word is in an idafa. Yeah. So if I said the valley of Musa,
Sorry, Ustad, is that 2 seconds in a row then? With not the.
Yeah. So notice we don't even pronounce the ya. We say nadis. We don't say nadis. So this ya gets dropped in pronunciation because of the iltiqa'u sakinain. Okay. All right. So let's go back to the word wadi, or if we said lands. Let's say the lands of Palestine. The lands of Palestine. How would you do that?
أراضي فلسطين.
Good. I'd say aradi. I'd say ara. You add the ya back because you're doing an idafa, and then you say Palestine, and the word Palestine is a diptote, so you can say Aradi Palestine.
No.
No. Good. All right. I'm going to stop share for a moment just to make sure nobody's waiting in the waiting room. Have a quick look. No, nobody's waiting. All right. Good. Share again. All right. So that was a quick review. We're going to go straight to our chapter 2 for today. Right. So today we're going to look at Afwan. I'm just going to put my phone on silent. Yeah. We're going to look at 4 different types of phrases in Arabic. The first is called the shibhu jumlatin. Sometimes it's called the shibhul jumlati. All right. So you could either do this phrase as a definite or an indefinite idafa. And in English, we translated it as quasi. Ma ma'na quasi? What quasi or quasi in English?
Like.
Almost like, yes. So this word shibhun in Arabic actually means similarity or resemblance. So literally, shibhul jumlatin means the resemblance of a sentence. It's not a real sentence, but it's almost a sentence. It has a kind of almost sentence feel to it. And that's why we call it a shibhu jumlatin in Arabic. And in English, we call this a quasi-sentence or a quasi-sentence. Then we have the idafa, the possessive. We have the ishara, the demonstrative. And we have the wasf, which is the description. So we're going to go through these today, inshallah. All right, number one, the shibhul jumla. So the first thing we learn is a preposition in English is called in Arabic a harfu jarrin, or a particle or letter. Here, the meaning is particle, a particle of jar. In Arabic, the Arabs call the down position the jar, which literally means dragging. So this particle causes the word after it to be dragged down, if you like. Okay. Sometimes they call it harful jar, harful jarri with the alif lam. All right. So it's optional. You can call it harful jarri or harfu jarrin. All right. And the harful jar, when it comes together with a noun or a pronoun, the word of pronoun is dhamir. The word dhamir literally means something that's hidden, all right? Which is also why the word dhamir is used to refer to a person's heart. So if I say, aqulu min dhamiri, that doesn't mean I say from my pronoun, it means I say from my heart, all right? Aqulu min dhamiri. So, another expression used for a preposition is a jar. So a jar, remember from last week, the form jar gives us the ismul fa'ili, the active participle, from roots that are doubled. So because this root jarara is doubled, the active participle is not jarirun. We don't say jarir, we say jar. So the harf is the thing that drags down, so it is the jar. And the thing that is dragged down is the majroor. So sometimes we call the prepositional phrase jarrun wa majrurun. All right. So this is an alternative grammatical term for the shibhul jumla. All right. So sometimes you'll see Arabs, or you'll see in books called a shibhul jumlati or shibhu jumlatin. Sometimes you'll see it jarrun wa majrurun, meaning a preposition and the object of the preposition. Any questions on that? No? All right, here are some examples. You know all of these. And as you know, the jar or the harfu jarrin makes the word after it go down. So you say min kitabin, min al kitabi. Very easy. If you have a pronoun after it, then the pronoun is an attached dhamir, an attached pronoun. So you say minhu or fiha. All right, so we call this the object of the preposition. Now, can anybody explain to me in very simple terms in English what a preposition is?
Something on its own that doesn't make sense but adds value to a sentence.
Good. A preposition, as you know, a harf on its own doesn't have an independent meaning. لَيْسَ لَهُ مَعْنًى مُسْتَقِلٌ. It does not have an independent meaning. That's true. But then there are lots of other huruf that on their own also don't make sense. So that your definition is too wide.
A pronoun shows the relationship between two nouns or a noun and a pronoun.
Good. So I think you mean
preposition. A preposition. Yeah, a preposition.
Good. A preposition shows usually the spatial or the time relationship. It's usually space or time. The relationship between a noun and another noun. When I say noun, that includes all pronouns as well and adjectives. Yeah, let's include all those as nouns. So it either shows the relationship between a noun and another noun, or a noun and a verb. All right, and so the relationship is going to connect the noun after it with the noun before it. So if I say the pen is on the table, the pen is on the table. You see, so the object of the preposition is the table, and that's going to be connected to the noun before it, which is the pen. Does that make sense? Yeah. So the preposition connects the word after it with the noun or the verb before it. So if I say the lesson is or the lesson is running in the school. All right, the lesson is running, or I am running on the spot. All right, so what's the object of the preposition on?
Spot.
Spot, good. So I'm going to connect the word spot to the word before it, which is a verb. I'm running, connecting the spot with my running. Okay, so we call this connection ta'alluq. In Arabic, ta'alluq. Have you come across the word alaq? خلق الإنسان من علق. Alaq. So alaq means something that clings. So from there we have the form 5 verb ta'allaqa yata'allaqu, which means to attach or to cling on to something. So what happens is the preposition causes the object or the word after it to attach or cling on to the word before it. So we'd say that the shibhul jumlati is muta'alliqun, is attached to the word before it. So this jarrun wa majrurun, and you'll see this expression in the grammar books. They'll say jarrun wa majrurun, or shibhul jumlati muta'alliqun bi kalimati kalimatun, attached to the word kalimatun. Yeah. Now, the word that the shibhul jumla is attached to will determine the meaning of the sentence or the phrase. Let me give you an example. Shakespeare says to be or not to be. That is the question. Whether it is nobler in the mind to suffer. Now listen to the alternative way of reading it. Whether it is nobler in the mind to suffer. Can you see? Depending on where you put your pause, you're connecting that shibhul jumla in the mind either to the word before it or to the word after it. Okay, so in certain situations, be careful. The shibhul jumla could be attached to the word after it. All right. So sometimes you'll see you have to interpret the sentence and understand what the shibhul jumla is attached to. Usually it's pretty obvious from the sentence, but in some complex sentences, you'll find that the shibhul jumla might be attached to something further down in the sentence, or something like one line before where it's placed. All right. And you get this a lot in the Qur'an. Yeah. So because the Qur'an is quite a complex text, and you get prepositional phrases attached to a word that's not immediately before or after it. Okay. So here we have some phrases where the shibhul jumla is attached to the word before it. Al-ayatu fil kitabi, the sign in the book. Now, you could actually think about this. You could interpret this to mean the sign is in the book, couldn't you? Could you do that?
Yes.
Yeah, so you could interpret this to mean the sign is in the book, or the sign in the book is something, is clear. Yeah, so I could say the sign in the book is clear, or I could say the sign is in the book. Okay. Now, usually when there's nothing else after it, you'd interpret this in order to give it its complete meaning as a complete sentence. You say هذه جملة كاملة. This is a complete sentence. الآية في الكتاب. The sign is in the book. So if we say the sign is in the book, then the shibhul jumla is attached to an elliptical khabar. We're saying the sign is present in the book, you see? So you say al-ayatu mawjudatun. Mawjudatun. So that's your khabar, all right? So whenever you get a situation like this, the sign is in the book, you're actually saying the sign is present, the sign is existent in the book. So this shibhul jumla is attached now. Shibhul jumlati muta'alliqun bi khabarin mahdhufin, is attached to a omitted khabar, taqdiruhu mawjudatun, which if it were to appear would be mawjudatun. All right? That's if you interpret this to be a complete sentence. If you interpret this to be a phrase, then there is no mawjudatun there. Then you say this shibhul jumla is attached to this word here, the mubtada, the subject, and you're expecting your khabar here. Does that make sense? Yeah. So can you see, even in a simple situation like this, where the shibul jumla is attached will determine your interpretation of the sentence and what it means, or whether or not it's a sentence, because here it's just a phrase. Okay, I have some more examples here. You can read them in your own time. Right, now what happens when certain pronouns, certain prepositions are attached to pronouns? So we have the prepositions ila and ala. When they attach to pronouns, they become ilay and alay. That's why we say assalamu alaykum, not alakum. And we say ilayna, not ilana. Okay, that's something you've come across already, nothing new. Here we have these pronouns, hu, huma, hum, and hunna. These four, when they are preceded by a kasra or a ya, they become he, hima, him, and hinna. So you'd say fihi, not fihu, ilayhi, alayhi, and fihi. So you say fihi, fihim, fihima, fihinna, ilayhi, ilayhima, ilayhim, ilayhinna, alayhi, alayhima, alayhim, alayhinna, and so on. All right. Now, when you attach the first person pronoun, the ya, to ila and ala and fi, you get this. You get ilayya, to me, alayya, upon me, fiyya, in me. All right. So what I'd like you to do, instead of trying to remember the sarf here, this is called sarf. So understanding how we got from there to there to there, this is called ilm sarf. For now, I just want you to focus on the outputs. Just learn these as the outputs. You already know these, most of these. So ilayya, alayya, and fiyya. Right. When you attach min and an to the first person pronoun, you add an extra noon. So you say minni. Sometimes the nouns are separated out and written like this, minni. But this is the more common usage, minni, where you put a shadda. So you can say minni or anni, or minni or anni. This is rare. This is not common. Right, and the same happens with, and in the plural, you only get the conflation. So you say minna, you don't write them out separately. Okay, minna and anna. Right, so that brings us to the end of our Shibhul Jumla section of the chapter. Right, we're going to ask you a quick quiz. Right, what's the Arabic expression for prepositional phrase?
حرف جر.
شبه جملة.
Good, Shibhu Jumlatin. Let's say the ending. Shibhu Jumlatin. Together, Shibhu Jumlatin. All right, or jarrun. There's an alif. I'm rolling the ra more than I should. Jarrun, just to impress upon you. There's a shadda on the ra. Jarrun wa majrurun. Say jarrun wa majrurun. Good. And the word, the object of a preposition in Arabic is called ismun majrurun. Say ismun majrurun.
Ismun majrurun.
Good. All right. There we are. So how would you say upon me?
Alayya.
Alayya.
Alayya. Good. How do you say to me?
Ilayya.
Good. Are you coming towards me? Or are you coming to me?
هل تجيء إلي؟
هل تجيء إلي? Or Maymun was saying, هل أنت آت إلي? This is hard upon me.
هذا صعب علي.
هذا صعب علي. ممتاز. ممتاز. If somebody says to you, Barakallahu feeka, may Allah bless you. Baraka comes with fee. How would you say, yes, may Allah bless me?
Wa iyaka. Oh, me.
May Allah bless me. You say, Barakallahu
Fiyya.
Fiyya. Good. Fiyya. Barakallahu fiyya. How would I say, the love of Allah is in me?
Hubballahi
fiyya.
Fiyya. Mumtaz. Hubbullahi fiyya. Good. All right. Now let's have a look at some of these. Let's translate these. How to say that? What does that mean?
To China.
To
China.
To China. في الشمس.
In the sun.
In the sun.
In the sun. Good. من الشام.
From Sham.
From Syria.
Good. سلام عليكم.
All the peace be
Be
upon
on
you.
you.
Every type of
May
peace.
all mumtaz, because the nakira, as we learned last week, refers to, it comprehends all types. So salamun alaykum, may all types of peace be upon you, which is a greeting of paradise, of Jannah. Assalamu alayna.
The peace be upon us.
Peace be upon us.
Be upon us.
Good. Wassalamu alayya.
And peace be upon me.
من قال والسلام علي.
عيسى عليه السلام.
عيسى عليه السلام قال والسلام علي يوم ولدت ويوم أموت ويوم أبعث حيا. كلمة مني.
A word from me.
A word from me. قريب منك وبعيد عني.
Close
From
Close to you. This min doesn't translate as from, because in English we don't say close from. We say close to. Yeah. We do sometimes say close from, like my house is close from the university, meaning if I travel from university, it's close. But usually we just say close to. Close to you and far from me. Salamun fil ardi.
Peace in the earth.
Peace on that.
Peace on the earth. Good. And as you know, it could be peace is on the earth, depending on how you interpret the ta'alluq, the connection. Ayatun min Allahi ila nasi.
A sign
Allah to the people.
From Allah to the people.
Okay.
A sign from Allah to the people. Good. All right, let's do the English to Arabic. From the sun.
من
من
الشمس.
الشمس.
Min ash-shamsi. Life in Iraq. Al-hayatu fil Iraqi. Al-hayatu fil Iraqi. Which could mean life in Iraq or life is in Iraq. On an edge. All right, well, I heard Zishan saying ala al-hududi, on the borders. Okay, what's the word for edge? Good, good. It's also the word for letter or particle, harf. So ala har, what is it? Ala har?
Pin.
In. Good. Ala harfin. This expression is actually in the Quran. Ala harfin, on an edge. There are some people who worship Allah, but they do it on an edge. Any moment they're going to sort of fall off the cliff because they're going right down to the edge, to the edge of Allah's commandments. Until the meeting.
اللقاء.
Good. حتى اللقاء أو حتى الاجتماع أو إلى اللقاء أو إلى الاجتماع. Forbidden from change.
ممنوع من
التغيير.
ممنوع. Some of you are saying ممنوع من التغيير. Good. You remember the word تغيير, and also the word for change is صرف. ممنوع من الصرف. All right. The word صرف is also used for spending money, or actually for loose change. So somebody might say to you, هل عندك صرف ل100 جنيه? Do you have change for 100 pounds? هل عندك صرف? They use the word صرف for breaking down the 100 pounds into change. هل عندك صرف ل100 جنيه, for example. أو صرفت مالي, I've spent my money. Yeah,
we had كم تصرفوا.
Yes, how much do you want to exchange? As in, how much do you want to, so you go to the sarraf in the Arab world and you say, كم سعر الجنيه اليوم? What does that mean?
How much is the
What
pound
is the
today?
price of the
What's the price of the pound today? And he says, كم تصرف? How much will you spend? Meaning exchange. Okay, because when you spend something, you're actually exchanging it, aren't you? Whether you're buying dollars with it or whether you're buying apples with it, you're exchanging it. So it's a contract of exchange, sarf. And the word sarf is used in fiqh to refer to a specific type of contract called bay'u sarfi. ما معنى بيع?
Agreement.
Contracts.
Bay' is a contract of exchange specifically. All right, so there are many different types of contracts. Some contracts are contracts of exchange or sale. We call them sale in English, where you're exchanging something for something else. You're buying a pear for an apple. That's a type of exchange called barter. All right. So bay'u sarfi does not refer to exchanging apples for pears. It refers to exchanging monetary commodities for other monetary commodities. All right. And it also includes many things that are fungible. So to exchange wheat for wheat in Sharia would be considered bay'u sarf, because wheat, because it's a fungible commodity and can be unitized, has the ability to be used as a currency. Yeah. So if you exchange wheat for wheat and there's a disparity in the amount, then you could be committing riba, which is very interesting. All right. Forbidden from change, mamnu'un min as-sarfi. That's a grammatical term which is used to refer to what?
Dip.
Tiptoe, it's good. A movement in the skies or the heavens.
حركة
Good. حركة في السماء أو في السماوات, the plural. Yeah. Notice in the plural, samawat, the hamza turns into a waw. The way we have, what's the word for mummy, Egyptian mummies?
Mumiya'u.
Mumiya'u. And what's the plural?
Mumiyawati.
Mumiyawat. Good. So those of you who've done a trip down to Cairo and seen the mumiyawat, notice the hamza changes into a wow. Yeah. This is called a phonetic change in Arabic, and hamzas do this in many different situations. So with this one, with the word sama'un, the plural is sama'watun. The hamza changes into a wow. Appropriate. What's the word for appropriate?
Munasibun.
Good. So where did we come across this as a grammatical term, appropriate? Harakatun.
I don't think we did.
Didn't we? Okay. All right. So the liaison vowel in Arabic is called harakatun munasibatun.
Oh, yeah,
The appropriate vowel. I do believe I mentioned it last week.
I think it's in the notes.
Harakatun.
Yeah.
Harakatun
it's in the notes.
munasibatun. Good.
Yeah.
So how to say appropriate in writing?
مناسب في الكتابة.
Jamil. Munasibun fil kitabati. So kitabatun is writing, kitabun is book. A word to mankind.
كلمة
للناس.
Kalimatun ila nasi. Good. Close to me and far from you.
قريب
مني
مني
وبعيد
عنك.
Good. Qaribun minni wa ba'idun anka. Here you have to remember that certain words come with specific prepositions, with specific huruf al-jar. So you have qaribun with min or ila. Right? You have qaribun min or qaribun ila. Now there's one verse in the Quran where the word min and ila occur after the word qaribun, or after one of the derivatives of qaribun. Anybody know the verse? وَنَحْنُ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْهِ
من حبل الوريد.
وَنَحْنُ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْكُمْ. On this verse it's وَنَحْنُ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْكُمْ. Isn't it? Or do you also have نَحْنُ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْ حَبْلِ الْوَرِيدِ?
Yes.
Yes, you have that too as well. Yes. وَنَحْنُ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْ حَبْلِ الْوَرِيدِ. So here, because the aqrabu is a comparative, yeah, we came across this last week. Ismut tafdil is called. Ismut tafdil, the comparative or the superlative form. Because that followed by min turns it into a comparative, we can't use min after aqrabu to mean close to. You see, so there we have to use the other preposition, ila, to say, ana aqrabu ilayhi minka. I'm closer to him than you. Ana aqrabu ilayhi minka. Does that make sense? Yeah. So in that situation, you have to use the ila because you're going to use the min for the comparative. A house in the valley.
بيت
بيت
في
في الوداع.
الوادي.
الوادي, yeah. I think it goes up.
في الوادي.
It'll just be sukoon.
Right. في Now, the ya is going to come back. So all of you are right. The ya did come back. Filwa. Now, what does the fi want to do here? It wants to put a kasra, right?
Yeah, but it can't.
It can't. So we just put a sukun.
Ah.
Okay, like we say fil wadi, fil madi. Yeah, in the past. How would you say in the last lesson? Fid darsil
ماضي.
madi. You see, you just put a sukun on that one. Okay, let's move on to the next section. Any questions on the prepositions? Very straightforward, nothing complex there. No? All right. It's going to get more interesting and more challenging as we go along. Don't worry about that. So we've got the idafa here. Very straightforward again. We've done the idafa. Now let's just learn the grammatical terms. We know the term idafa. The first word of the idafa is called the mudaf. The second word is called the mudafun ilayhi. So we have mudafun ilayhi. So you go from right to left. The first word is the mudafun. Say with me, mudafun. Mudafun ilayhi.
Mudafun ilayhi.
Mumtaz. All right. So mudafun literally means added. And mudafun ilayhi means added to it. Because this word is added to that word in ownership. Does that make sense? The student owns his book. So the book is added to his ownership. All right. So you see in the idafa, you have a word that has no al and no tanween. All right. This is one of the rare situations where you can have a word with no al and no tanween. Okay. Now, the important thing to remember is it's the definition of the mudafun ilayhi that determines the definiteness of the whole structure. So if the talib is definite, then the whole thing is definite. Now, if we took the al off here and said kitabu, take the shadda off, kitabu talibin, then the whole thing becomes indefinite. It means a book of a student. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay. So the definiteness of the second word determines the definiteness of the whole structure. You don't look at whether or not there's an al here. Look at whether or not there's an al here or a tanween here. Let's move on. Here are some very simple expressions. Kitabullahi, Baytullahi, Abdullahi, Asma'ullahi, Sifatullahi. Sifa was adjective, Sifatun is the plural, the attributes of Allah. Okay, now you could drop the mudafun ilayhi and replace it with a pronoun. So you still have an idafa construction, and that would be sifatuhu. So if I said the names of Allah and his attributes, or would I say asma'ullahi wa sifatuhu? Yes, I don't need to repeat asma'ullahi wa sifatullahi because I've already said Allah here. So now I could use a pronoun instead, and the second idafa is between a noun and a pronoun. So instead of saying kitabu talibi, we say kitabuhu. Banatul rijali, we say banatuhum. Instead of awladun nisa'i, we say awladuhunna, and so on. We have some more examples here. Now we've got some other phonetic changes. The hu, huma, hum, and hunna, also, as you can see here, will go down because they're preceded by a kasra. So fi kitabihi min ibnihima ila ummihim ala kalami hinna. Yeah. So in his book, from their two son, ila ummihim, to their mother, ala kalamihinna, upon their speech. Now, when you attach the first person pronoun to a word that ends with an alif, such as the word dunya, then the pronoun becomes just ya. So to say my world, you say dunya, ya. My stick, you say asa, ya. Yeah. So قال ربنا تعالى لموسى عليه السلام وما تلك بيمينك يا موسى. وما تلك, and what is that? بيمينك, in your right hand. يا موسى. قال هي, what's the next word?
عصايا.
عصايا.
Yeah. عصايا. قال هي عصايا. He said it is Asaya. You can tell from the here that the word asan is what?
feminine.
feminine.
Feminine. Good. So on its own, it was one of those. We did this earlier. It was one of those maqsoor words, wasn't it? It was just asan. Asan. So here you lose the tanween and then you say asaya. So you have an idafa between the word asan and the ya. So you get asaya. We've seen this happen with dual nouns. So the word for two parents, the word for one parent is walidun. Yeah. Wa walidin wa ma walad. Walid. Walid means father or progenitor, the person who is your parent. Okay, so walidun is father, walidatun is mother, and two parents is walidani. Walidani. Now, when you attach a pronoun to a dual noun, the dual loses its noun. So you're going to drop the noun. Let's drop that noun. You say walida, and then I'm going to add the yi. Is it going to be walidai or walidaya?
Walidaya.
Walidaya. Do you see where that walidaya comes from? Yeah, walida. Yeah, my two parents. Walidaya. So it's the same treatment as dunyaya, my world, and asaya, my stick. All right, so we're going to look at what happens when there's something before the idafa. A preposition will affect the first word of the idafa and take it down. Fi kitabit talibi, in the book of the student. How would I say I saw the book of the student?
رأيت كتاب الطالب.
Kitaba بالطالب.
Good. So if you say ra'aytu here, this will go up. You say ra'aytu kitab at-talibi. I'm very pleased and impressed with the speed at which you're responding. Yeah, because vocalizing Arabic is the hardest part of Arabic grammar. There'll be many people who can teach you all of this stuff here because it's very basic. The grammar here is not difficult, but coming up with the sentence with the ending in the heat of the moment, I call that the Hotam test. H-O-T-M, heat of the moment. The Hotam test is the ultimate test. Can you say it in the Hotam and also smile? Because some people can do it, but they're like, yeah, they're frowning and screwing up their face, right? They've got a morose expression on their face. All right, so we have في كتاب الطالب كلمة في كتاب الطالب, a word in the book of the students. Okay, now what happens if you want to say the book and the pen of the student? This is something that people often get wrong. The book and the pen of the student. You are not allowed to use this. You can't say kitabu wa qalamu talibi. You have to say kitabu talibi here wa qalamuhu. Right, so you do a second idafa and you conjunct it onto the first one with a wa. Kitabu talibi wa qalamuhu. So if I said in the book of the student and his pen, I would say fi kitabit talibi wa
qalamihi.
qalamihi. Mumtaz. Fi kitabit talibi wa qalamihi. Okay.
How would you say in the book of the student and its page if the possession then changed from the student to the book?
And fi kitabit talibi, you tell from context. You'd say wa. You say what's the word for page? Wasaf.
صفحة.
Good. So in the book of the student and in the page, that's what you're saying. Fi kitabit talibi wa safhati he. Right. Now you can tell from the context that this he isn't referring to students because students don't have pages. Yeah. So from context, you know that this must be referring back to the book. Okay.
Yes.
Right. Now beware, there are some situations when you have a definite idafa between a noun and then a proper noun. And you might think, this is an indefinite idafa. Is this an indefinite idafa?
It's definite.
Muhammad is definite.
It's definite because Muhammad is definite, it's a proper noun. So kalamu Muhammadin, Muhammad's speech is definite. Fi bayti Hasanin, in Hasan's house, is definite, even though there's a tanween here. Okay? All right. Now let's have a look at the indefinite idafa. If, as I said earlier, if you put a tanween on the last word, you get an indefinite idafa. The whole thing becomes indefinite. So this means a book of a student. You could also translate it as a student's book. Now, you would also translate this as the book of a student. Does that sound odd if everything is indefinite? Why do you think we put the word the here, even though we're saying everything is indefinite? Okay, let me give you a situation. You bump into a pirate, okay, and he points his musket at you and he says, "Where's the treasure?" And you say, "I hid it in the middle of a desert." And he says, he started his expression with the. That means I must know where it is. And he walks off to the middle of a desert. Does he know where to go?
No.
No.
No. If he does that, he's a fool, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because the middle of a desert is not specific. Yeah, the reason why it's not specific is because you've got a desert. It's not the middle of the desert, it's the middle of a desert. So in English, beware, if you have the here, but an a there, you will translate that into Arabic using an indefinite idafa. Does that make sense?
Yes, but that means we can't have a book of the student.
A book of the student, we're going to do that soon. I'm going to show you how to do that. But you won't use an idafa for that. What I want you to learn here in terms of your mental processes, when you're going from English into Arabic and you're thinking, right, I'm going to give you some examples now. Let's see who can do these. So let's say the manager of the project.
مدير
المشروعات.
Good. Mudirul mashru'ati. That's the projects. How do you say the manager of the project? The project singular.
مدير المشروعات.
Okay. The word for project is mashru'un. It's masculine. Okay. So mudirul mashru'i. Yeah. Mudirul mashru'i. Mashru' comes from the root shara'a, from which we have the verb shuru'. What do you think shuru' means? Shuru' qara.
To start.
Yeah. Have you heard the shuru' qara?
Yes.
Start.
Yeah. Shuru' qara. They don't say with the at the end, but this word has found its way into the subcontinent. Shuru' means beginning. You know, shara'a means he began something.
It's same in Urdu as well.
To mean begin.
No.
But do you use the verb or just shuru'?
No, like shuru karte hain. Yeah.
Yeah, shuru'. We use the verbal noun shuru', and we take it into our language, and we use it as a noun. Yeah. So we say do the shuru', begin. Yeah. Okay. So here, why did I talk about shuru'?
About the project.
Yeah, good. So the can you see the word mashru'un is the ismul maf'uli, the passive participle of the root shara'a. Does that make sense? What's the ismul fa'ili? What's the active participle?
Sha'irun. Sha'irun.
Sha'irun is a different root. It's sha'ara.
Sha'ri'un.
Shari'un. ما معنى شارع?
Someone who started.
Good. A person who starts. It's also the word for path or road. Shari'un, street.
Oh yes, yeah.
Shari'i in the street.
Shari al-Tahriri. No.
في شارع التحريري. Good. In Tahrir. Or في yes, in Tahrir Street. Yes, in Cairo. طيب. فشارع is street. Shari'un is also the person who begins something, and shari'un is also the lawgiver who gives us the sharia, which is the path. Does that make sense? Good.
No.
All right. So mudirul mashru'i is the manager of the project. Right. A manager of a project.
مدير مشروع.
Mudiru mashru'in. The manager of a project.
مدير
مشروع.
Yeah.
مشروع.
I'm the manager of a project. أنا مدير مشروع. You'd use an indefinite idafa here. So this is something that I think is probably something we haven't done very much. I'd like you to make a note of this one. أنا مدير مشروع. All right, how would you say I am the manager of a school.
أنا مدير
مدير
مدرسة.
مدرسة.
أنا مدير مدرسة. Good, good. I'm the manager of a company.
أنا
أنا مدير
شركة.
Good. So can you see? You're going to snap these out with indefinite idafas.
We did this, Ustad, in level 2, Talibu Madrasatin.
Yes, we did it. We did it, but we did it quite briefly.
No, yeah.
أنا طالب مدرسة. I am a student of a school. But we didn't really do it much where in English you use the.
Yeah, we just touched upon that.
Yeah. So the key mistake that people make is when they see something like this, they get thrown off. How do I do this? The book of a student, Kitabu Talibin. You translate it into Arabic with a completely indefinite idafa. Okay? All right. Let's keep moving. Okay. Now, the indefinite idafa is sometimes used for what you might call an idiomatic expression. So you have things like kalimatu haqqin, a word of truth. You could, if you stretch your imagination, see a possessive relationship between the word and truth, because the truth owns the word that is true. You see, but it's not a concrete physical possession. It's more of a conceptual possession. You see, so we can call these idiomatic. Kalimatu haqqin, a word of truth. All right. There's a famous statement of Ali radiallahu anhu, who was faced with the Khawarij. Have you heard of the Khawarij? The Khawarij were a group of people who, in their practices, were very pious, but they interpreted the Qur'an in a wrong way, which led them to do horrible acts of violence. In fact, they eventually murdered Ali radiallahu anhu. And they came along and they said that Ali radiallahu anhu had left the fold of Islam, in their view, because he agreed to arbitration in his dispute with some other Muslims. All right, so he agreed to there being arbitration, and they quoted a verse of the Quran which was inil hukmu illa lillah. The hukum belongs only to Allah. So they said, because Allah, it should be the only judge, and Ali radiallahu anhu had accepted for another human being to be an arbitrator, therefore a judge, therefore he's gone against the Quran and he's become a kafir. And when he heard this, he said, kalimatu haqqin, meaning the ayah is true, kalimatu haqqin urida biha batilun. But what they mean by it is wrong, is batil. Yeah, a word of truth, but intended to mean falsehood. Famous words of Ali radiallahu anhu. Kalimatu haqqin urida biha batilun. Right, now sometimes we use this in everyday situations, like, how would you do an indefinite idafa to say a cup of coffee? All right, some of you are we're going to do exactly this. Ka'su
Kahwatin.
Good. You say ka'su qahwatin. All right, we've done an indefinite idafa here. A cup of coffee. Does the coffee own the cup?
No, literally.
Technically, think of it as when the coffee is in the cup owns the coffee. Yeah, or because the coffee is using the cup in order to achieve its purpose of being drunk by you, therefore the coffee owns the cup. Now you can get imaginative about this, but the reality is neither of them really own each other, do they? Yeah, so there's no real ownership here. This is really an idiomatic expression. Ka'su qahwatin. All right. Now, with these idiomatic expressions, they're quite common in Arabic. You'll see them quite a lot. You can break them with a min. All right. So you'll see this quite a lot as well. In Arabic, we break the idafa using a prepositional phrase, using a shibhul jumla. All right. So instead of saying kalimatu haqqin, we can say kalimatun min haqqin or min al haqqi. So here you could make this definite or indefinite. You could say kalimatun min haqqin or min al haqqi. And of course, these two have a slightly different nuance of meaning, because the definite refers to the concept of truth and the indefinite refers to
all types of truth.
all types of truth. Yes. النكرة تشمل كل أفرادها. The indefinite comprehends all of its members, literally. All right. So then let's do this. Let's say a cup of coffee using this broken idafa structure. How would you do that? Sun. Now you recognize that one, don't you? Yeah, I taught that to you in level 1 or 2. Level 1. This is Katsun Minal. Now you could say Min Qahwatin, keep that indefinite. You could bring that down. Or you could say Min Al Qahwati. Right. Now, you see this actually in other places. How would you say many? Let's use this structure. Many of the things.
كثير من الأشياء.
Yeah.
كثير
من الأشياء.
Good. كثير.
Things or the things?
Yeah, if you say many of things, you say كثير من أشياء. Indefinite, but usually this is used as a definite phrase. So you say
من الأشياء.
Good. Minal. You say أشياء. Minal أشياء. كثير. It's really nice to teach grammar to students who already know the grammar, because I can just ask you, right? I'm teaching you stuff you already know. كثير من الأشياء. Right?
And now you've changed the definition of the two words, so we're good.
Yeah, you can change the definition. So you see, when you break it, well pointed out, when you break the idafa, you could have one that's definite and one that's indefinite. Right? So we're going to come to this soon. Is it now? No, it's a bit later. Instead of using min, if I say kitabun, now is there a preposition that can mean belonging to?
Li.
Good. So I could say li lit-talibi.
A book of the student.
Yeah. So Maria, that answers your question now. If you want to say a book of the student, you don't use the idafa structure. You break the idafa and you use this harful jar, this preposition, to say kitabun lit-talibi, a book belonging to the student, a book of the student. Does that make sense? Yeah. And so we're going to use this structure here. I think I've got an example of it later on. Now, let's do some idafa chains. Now, in principle, you could create an idafa chain if you know enough nouns that goes all the way around the world and comes back and reconnects. Yeah? There's no limit to how many words you can put in an idafa, except that if you make a long idafa chain, you're going to lose your audience. Right? So typically, Arabs don't use more than 2 or 3 words in any given idafa. It's very rare to get 5, 6, 7 words in idafa because it's just a bit of a sort of mind gymnastic to try and work out what the chain of ownership is. So here we have Ismu bintil ustadi, the name of the daughter of the teacher. You see? So what you do is, because this word owns this and this word owns this, okay? So only the last word can have the al or the tanween. You see, so this one has the tanween, and these two have the als. Nothing before that can have al or tanween. Right? So the first thing you remember is only the last word can have the al or the tanween. The second thing is every owner goes down. So the second word onwards is an owner, isn't it? Because this one owns that, this one owns that. So every owner goes down. Yeah, so the jar is for the owners in the idafa. So from the second word onwards, you have to go down. If you remember those two principles, you'll get this right. Okay, so only the last word in the idafa chain can have the al or the tanween, and every owner goes down. Okay, now have you heard of a town called Basra? Not Basra in Iraq, Basra in Syria.
No.
Okay, who's read the seerah of the Prophet Muhammed ﷺ, where he came to a town when he was a child and a monk saw him?
Yes.
Yes. So So there was a monk who saw him. That was the town of Basra.
No.
I've been there actually 4 or 5 times. It's Google the place, see pictures of it if you can. It's essentially a ruined Roman city. So it's got all of the features of a Roman city. It's got the columns and the arches and all the Roman buildings, but it's all black. So imagine a Roman city, but all made of black rock, because the whole city was made of black volcanic rock. And in the middle of that old city, there's a land feature which is very, very odd. There's 2 columns, very high columns, and at the top of the column there's a platform which is about the size of a large bed, and it's slightly ruined now, but you could see that there were steps that come down from this platform, and this platform is known as the bed of the daughter of the king. The bed of the daughter of the king. And we're going to produce that expression soon. So this is a real expression that the Arabs used to refer to this landmark. And the story is that the Roman emperor who came from that town, apparently 2 Roman emperors came from that town. So there was a Roman emperor called Trajan, who was an Arab Assyrian. And so this is the Byzantine Empire, not the Western Roman Empire, the Eastern Roman Empire. So the emperor in what's now Istanbul, in Constantinople, who at the time was a king called Trajan, who was a Syrian Arab. And it was said to him that his daughter would be killed by a scorpion. And so he had this bed made for his daughter. I'm sure at the time they covered it, but now it's all exposed, just a platform of stone. And he made this bed and he perched her on top of this, and he forbade anybody to go up except a servant who would go up and give her food and take away her rubbish. And as you know, you cannot escape death. وَلَوْ كُنْتُمْ فِي بُرُوجٍ مُشَيَّدَةٍ. Even if you are in fortified towers. Can you imagine that? Allah says in the Quran, وَلَوْ كُنْتُمْ فِي بُرُوجٍ مُشَيَّدَةٍ. Even if you're in a fortified tower, you cannot escape death. And so the story is that one day a servant was taking a bunch of grapes up to her, and he didn't notice a very small scorpion that was hidden in the grapes, which bit her, and she died. All right. Now let's produce the expression, the bed of the daughter of the king, a chain idafa. What's the word for bed? I'll help you.
Sarir bintil waziri Malik.
Good. You guys are faster than me. Sariru binti. So that's going to go down because bint owns the bed. Sariru binti al Maliki. Right? And let's see if you can find this place. If you Google search this expression, yeah, and you search Basra, a picture of it will probably come up on Google Images. Okay. Okay. So that's the chain. Now, something that's an interesting, exciting part of this lesson. We're going to look at superlative form. Ismut tafdili. Ismut tafdili means the superlative form, literally the noun of preference. What do you recognize this word here? Tafdil. Tafaddal means go ahead, yeah. But Maymoon, tafaddal.
It's the form 2 verbal noun, so we.
It's the verbal noun. Good. It's the masdar, the verbal noun of form 2. So what's the verb? How would you use the verb in the first person?
Ufaddilu.
Ufaddilu. Good. Ufaddilu bima'na I prefer. Yeah, we've come across this, haven't we?
No.
Yeah. Ufaddilu ad-dajaj al-maqliya. What does that mean?
I prefer
fried chicken. Now, ad-dajaj al-maqliyu. Ismu tafdil. So tafdil means preference. Okay. So how do you produce the ismu tafdil from various nouns? Here we are. So we've done this one. Ahsanu akbaru. Right. Now the feminine is of the form husna. Okay. Ahsanu husna. Last week we did awwalu first and ula. Okay, so that's the same form. Akbaru kubra. Ahsanu husna. Awwalu ula. Now, if the root is doubled, if the root is called muda'af, that's what you call a double root, you get the form afallu. So from jadidun, you would get ajaddu. Good, good. So how would you say this is newer than that?
هذا أجد من ذلك.
Good. هذا أجد من ذلك. Good. Now, qalilun means few. How to say fewer or fewest?
أقل.
Aqallu. Good. So how to say we are fewer than you?
نحن أقل منكم.
نحن أقل منكم. Good. So we also have this from shadid. ما معنى shadid?
Severe.
Severe. We have ashaddu, more or most severe. Ashaddu. أأنتم أشد خلقا أم السماء? Are you more? Ashaddu literally means tight or tightest. Shadidun literally means something that is tight. So if you take a belt and you tie it, you tie it tight, then you're doing something called shad. You are tightening. Okay. So ashaddu literally means more tight, more tense. All right. So are you, from there we have more strong, because something that's tight and has a strong gravitational force holding it together is shadid. Right. So you can't take it apart. So ashaddu means something that is taut, held together with strength. Antum ashaddu khalqan. Are you more? Are you stronger in constitution? Antum ashaddu khalqan amis sama, or is the sky? So this is what you get from the double root. Where you have the weak root, which is called mu'tal. Remember mu'tal? Yeah. What do you call a weak letter? Harful illa. Good. Harful illati. And illa means
Positive.
Illness.
It means illness or cause. Okay. So illatun means illness or cause. Anybody remember the connection between the two?
Everything in creation has a weakness.
Everything in creation has a weakness, and its fundamental weakness is that it cannot self-subsist. It must be caused by Allah's command. All right. So every other weakness is secondary to the fundamental weakness, which is existential, and that is that we must be created. We must be caused. So our illah, our weakness or our illness, is the illah, the cause that we require in order to exist. Okay. So when the weak letter, when the weak letter is at the end of a root, we call that root mu'tal, a weak root. Mu'tal, mu'tal. When you get that, the superlative form is produced as like this, af'a, and the feminine is fu'ya. So we have from ala, which means to be high. We have a'la. A'la means highest, masculine. Feminine is ulya. Now notice, with these weak verbs, this alif is written as a long alif, whereas before it was written as a short alif. See that? So there's a slight difference in the orthography or the spelling of it. So you have a'la and ulya. You have dunya, adna, masculine, and dunya, feminine. So adna means lower or lowest, and dunya is the feminine, lower or lowest. Now, let's have a look at how we use these superlatives in an idafa. When you use the superlative form in an indefinite idafa, you get a superlative meaning. Okay, so if I said ahsanu min, am I using it in an idafa? If I say ahsanu min, no, I'm not using this in an idafa because I've said ahsanu, I've stopped. There's no connection with the noun. Ahsanu min. So if I say more handsome than Hasan, I say ahsanu min Hasan min. Yeah, but if you use ahsanu in an idafa that's indefinite, That's how you produce a superlative meaning. So ahsanu waladin means the most handsome boy. What is there a disparity between the grammatical structure of this and the meaning?
No, it's
Yeah,
most handsome of.
Definite, but you've got a definite meaning.
Yeah, it's grammatically indefinite, but the meaning is definite. Yeah,
It can't be indefinite because it's the most. So it has to be definite.
it has to be definite.
Def-
Good. So the meaning is definite, but structurally, grammatically, it's indefinite. So sometimes you can get a disparity between the definiteness in structure or in form and the definiteness in meaning. Okay, the reason why the meaning has to be definite is because the superlative refers to the extreme example of something, and at the extreme end of anything there can only be one, right? Does that make sense? If I say to you, you're the last in a race and then you get overtaken, what's your new position?
If you're last, how can you be overtaken?
Yeah, that's a trick question. You can't be overtaken if you're last, you see? So if you're last, you can only overtake. Nobody can overtake you because there's nobody behind you, right? So there can only be one person who is last, yeah? So if I say akhiru waladin, the last boy, the meaning of that has to be definite. Awwalu waladin, the first boy, the meaning of that has to be definite, even though the structure is indefinite. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so we have some more examples here. So we have ahsanu bintin, ahsanu asma'in. Notice we use ahsanu, the singular and the masculine, even with a feminine or a plural.
Is that always the case?
Most of the time, 90% of the time,
Okay.
you're going to use the masculine singular regardless of the number or the gender of the word you're referring to. Okay, you just use a masculine singular superlative. So you're not going to use these dunya or ulya or ula. You're not going to use those in superlative structures.
Okay, so those are all used for comparative meanings.
Even in the comparative, you'd say hiya ahsanu minha. Even in the comparative, you're not going to use them. So 90% of the time, you will not find yourself using these. All right, not when you're producing superlative or comparative meanings. Okay, I'm going to explain to you when sometimes we do use them.
Okay.
Okay, but for now, stick to ahsanu, 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 akbaru. So the greatest signs is akbaru ayatin, even though this is a non-human plural. Yeah. Awwalu baytin, the first house. Right. I think somebody asked a question. Let me have a look. Okay. Let's go down. So we have, again, see all of these are masculine. أول كلمة, the first word, أعلى اسم, the highest name. أعلى مثل, the highest example, and so on. Okay, there are two words which are خير and شر, which, whether they're used as a simple adjective or comparative or superlative, stay خير and شر. So you don't say أخير or أشر. You don't do that. Okay, it's considered to be weak. So you say sharru waladin, the worst boy, khayru bintin, the best girl. How would you say the night of power is better than 1,000 months? Good. So we don't say laylatul qadri akhyaru min, we say laylatul qadri khayrun min. We're going to use khayrun, and khayrun there is being used as a comparative with a min. Khayrun min alfi shahrin. And notice we use khayrun, the masculine, even though laylatun is feminine. Laylatul qadri khayrun. You see, we don't say khayratun. We don't make it feminine. All right. Now, here are some more examples of where we use it with a plural. Again, this stays singular and masculine. Okay. If you make the idafa definite, you don't have a superlative anymore. Yeah. So it's not the most handsome boys. It's the most handsome of the boys. So I'd say Ahmadu ahsanul awladi. Ahmad is the most handsome of the boys. Does that make sense? Or Anta akbaruna. What would that mean? Anta akbaruna.
You are greater than us.
No, that would mean, and that would be Anta akbaru minna. You are greater than us.
You are.
Anta akbaruna.
You are the greatest of us.
You are the greatest of us. Good. You are the greatest among us. Anta akbaruna. Anta ajmaluna.
You are the best of us.
Good. You're the best or the most handsome of us or among us. Good.
So what does superlative mean then? Because this is still giving the best, the highest position to whatever it is that we're talking about.
So this word is still being used as a superlative, but the idafa doesn't give you the superlative meaning with that. So you're not saying you are the best boy among us. All right?
Okay.
I guess, so ahsanu waladin, so ahsanu awladin is still a superlative. The best boys, the most handsome boys, same as ahsanu, this one. Ahsanu waladin means the most handsome boy. Ahsanu awladin, this one, means the most handsome boys. But ahsanul awladi means there's one person who is the most handsome of the boys.
Okay. Yes.
Right? All right. And then we've got some comparatives here. I've already covered this with you. Ahsanu min waladin, more handsome than a boy. Let's have a look at how we use kullu. Now, when we use kullu, again, we use an indefinite idafa. So we're doing some examples of indefinite idafas, and it gives you the meaning of every. So when you use kullu as an indefinite idafa, you get the meaning of every. Kullu shay'in, everything. Kullu kitabin, every book. Kullu mri'in, every person. Imri, it means person. This word actually has lots of different versions of it. You can say imri'un, imru'un, and there's 5 or 6 others. All right, but the one used in the Quran is imri'un. When you make it feminine, you say imra'atun, which means a woman. Imri'un is a man. Imra'atun is a woman. Now, although this is indefinite, is the meaning definite or indefinite?
Yes. Definite.
Yes, because everything, if you've comprehended everything, can that be indefinite?
No.
No, because that must be a known entity. You've defined it and you've comprehended every single member within that group, so it must be definite. So again here, even though this expression is indefinite, the meaning is definite, right? So let's move on. This is going to be important later when you come to the noun sentence, because of the ability to begin a noun sentence with an indefinite, because the meaning is definite. We'll explain that to you next week, inshallah. All right, if you make the idafa definite with this one, it means the whole. So you say kullul kitabi, the whole book. So if I would say every day,
Kullu yawmin.
kullu yawmin, how would I say I work every day?
A'malu kulla yawmin.
Good. ممتاز. أعمل كل will go up there. Why? لماذا?
Object of the verb. Adverb. Adverb of the verb.
Good. Adverb. It's telling me the time in which the action happens, so it goes up. أعمل كل يوم. You're not doing anything to every day. You're doing something in every day. Does that make sense? So it's not the direct object. It's an adverb. So كل. So how do you say the whole day? The whole of the day.
Kullu yawmi.
كل اليوم. Good. So how do you say I study the whole of the day?
Udarrisu kulla yawmi.
Okay. أدرس كل اليوم. Good. I study the whole of the day. Good. Now how do you say all of the days?
Kullu ayyami.
كل الأيام. Good. And I read all of the days.
أقرأ كل الأيام.
Good. أقرأ كل الأيام. So can you see? If you have an indefinite idafa, it means every. If you have a definite idafa, it means the whole. And if you have a definite idafa with a plural, it means all. Right? Kullul kutubi, all of the books. And when you use it like that, you can also use jami'u instead of kullu. So you can say jami'ul kutubi, all of the books. Kullukum, all of you. Jami'ukum, all of you. Okay, so in this usage, you can use jami'u instead of kullu. Now, again here, you can break the idafa. Look at that. Instead of saying kullul kutubi, you could say kullun, and then you have to put the tanween back on because there's no idafa. Kullun minal kutubi, all of the books. Kullun minhum, all of them. Right?
Ustad, if you have the plural as indefinite, that doesn't mean anything, right?
Which one?
So if you have kullu ayyamin, that doesn't mean anything, right?
Kullu ayyamin. I believe you can't say that. Kullu ayyamin. All days. Kullu ayyamin. I've never heard it. I've never heard kullu ayyamin. So you have kullu yawmin, kullul yawmi, kullul ayyami. I've never heard kullu ayyamin.
Okay.
Anybody heard it? Anybody heard
If I
kullu
say it, I know it's wrong, so now I know.
Yeah, yeah, good. Well pointed out. So we don't say kullu ayyamin. If there's somebody out there who's ever seen it, send it to me. I'll be interested. All right, some vocab for you. Let's do some of these. Let's try some of the English to Arabic. The servants of Allah on the earth. I say servants. What's plural of abdun?
Ibadun.
Ibadun, good. So the servants of Allah on the earth.
Ibadullahi ala
al-ard.
Mumtaz. Ibadullahi ala al-ardi. Now, as you can see, the ala al-ardi could be muta'alliqun bi khabarin mahdhufin. It could be attached to an elliptical khabar. So it could be the servants of Allah are on the earth. Could be a sentence. Or it could be the servants of Allah on the earth are, and then X, Y, Z. The daughter of Muhammad.
Bintu Muhammadin.
Bintu Muhammadin. All right. The doing of evil. What's the word for doing? Action. Good. Fi'lu. What's the word for evil or bad or worse? Good. Fi'lu sharrin. The doing of evil. Fi'lu sharrin. Or you could say fi'lu sharri, on your part, literally from you.
Minka.
Minka. Good. All right, let's move on. And I note we are another interesting ones here. All right, what about this one? From Hassan's daughter and son.
Min bin Hasanin wa ibnuhu.
Okay, so we've got min binti Hasanin, from Hassan's daughter. And then would you say wabnuhu or wabnihi? Wabnihi. Good, because you're conjuncting it with a waw, and you have to still go down. Min binti Hasanin wabnihi. The first man on earth. Adam is the first man on earth.
أول رجل على الأرض.
Good. So you're going to use the indefinite idafa to produce the expression the first man. Don't be misled by the word the. أول رجل means the first man. All right. So آدم أول رجل على الأرض. All right. Adam was the first man on earth.
كان آدم أول رجل على الأرض.
Good. The 13-year-old is speeding forward. MashaAllah. You are 13, right? Or 14?
Yeah, I'm 13.
13, MashaAllah. كان آدم أول رجل. أول. Why did أول go up? Ifat?
Because of
خبر كان. خبر كان. It's the خبر كان. كان آدم أول رجل على الأرض. A sign in everything. There is a sign in everything. Remember the word for sign is ayatun.
Ayatun fi
يوجد آية
شيء.
توجد آية في كل شيء.
في كل
توجد آية في كل شيء.
Good. Tujadu, well done for remembering yujadu will become tujadu here. Tujadu ayatun fi kulli shay'in. Tujadu ayatun fi kulli shay'in. All right, I'm going to move on now. We're going to do the ishara. Now, the ishara is very straightforward. In Arabic, we have the ismul isharati, which literally means the noun of demonstration. And we have isharatul kharibi. To demonstrate something that's close to you, you use the basic ishara is the. This is the ismul ishara. It's just a the, right? Now don't confuse that with a dhu, the. Remember the dhu? Yeah. How do you say we booked a suite with 2 rooms in the hotel?
استأجرنا جناحا ذو
Okay. Okay. حجزنا أو استأجرنا we rented. حجزنا we booked. جناحا, janah meaning wing, but in the hotel it means a suite or a wing. ذا غرفتين. That means possessing. All right. This that is not the same as that the. This that is the demonstrative pronoun. It's when you point at something you say the. Okay. If you go to the Arab world, sometimes you'll see. If you go to Egypt, they just say da. Okay. So kem da, kem di. What does that mean?
How much is it?
They simply say da because they don't pronounce it da. They harden it and say da. They say kem da, how much is this? All right, because the original demonstrative pronoun is actually just that. So we're going to morphology now. This is called ilm al-sarf. Now we add this ha, which is a shortened version of this ha. This is called adatu tanbih, which literally means the particle of tanbih, which means drawing attention. All right. When we add it to the that, we drop the alif. So we don't say hadha. We don't write hadha, but we pronounce it hadha. That's why we pronounce the alif after the ha. So it's that or hadha. The feminine is hadhi. Hadhi is very uncommon. I've never actually seen it ever being used in writing. But the more common version is hadhihi, and the plural is haula'i. Again, the origin is ula'i, and then we say haula'i for these. So how do you say these men? Haula'ir
الرجال.
Good. Haula'ir rijalu. These men. Haula'ir rijalu tullabun. These men are students. You see? Haula'i. Okay. So here I've got a box explaining the morphology of the ha. I'm not going to go into it because it's going to make your head buzz. If you're interested in morphology, then read this at your peril. Here we have the isharatul ba'id. The isharatul ba'id, again we begin with the, yeah. But this time we add the ka to it and we say dhaka. So the basic ishara of the ba'id, where something is a bit further away, is dhaka. Okay. And if you want to make it even further away, you add this lam here. This is called lamul bu'd. Bu'd means distance. The lam of distance. You add that and you get dhalika. Dhaka, dhalika. And the feminine is tilka. And the plural is ulaika. Now this waw is not pronounced. In pronunciation, you don't say ulaika. You just say ulaika. So how to say those men? Ulaikar. Those students. Ulaika.
أولئك الطلاب.
Tullabu. Good. Ulaika tullabu. Those students. There we are. And we've got some more morphology on that. I'm not going to go into that. Now, the key thing to remember is when you're demonstrating something, you're saying hadha. If I say hadha talibun, what does that mean?
This is the student.
This is the student.
Hadha talibun. What does that mean?
This is
This is
a student. So So if I say هذا الطالب, that means
Student.
The student.
student. Then you're expecting your khabar to come afterwards. So when you're doing ishara of something, you must make this word definite. If it's not already definite. How to say this?
How would say this is the student?
This is the student. Now, depending on the context, you could simply say هذا الطالب, هذا الطالب, meaning this is the student. And from the context, your audience will understand that you mean this is the student, not this student. That's possible.
Is it wrong to say هذا هو الطالب?
It's not wrong. I'm going to come to that. But in some contexts, in order to remove the ambiguity, you would throw in a pronoun here that agrees with the gender of this and the number. So you say هذا هو الطالب. This is the student. So how do you say this is the truth?
هذا
هو الحق. هذا هو الحق. Good. You could say هذا الحق, and the audience will understand from a context that you're speaking in that you mean this is the truth. There's an example at the beginning of the Quran where هذا is used like this without the huwa. Who can tell me? Well, not هذا, it's ذلك actually. ذلك.
ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه.
Good. ذلك الكتاب. The meaning is ذلك هو الكتاب. That is the book. Yeah.
Could you say that the reason for that is because everyone knows the book you're talking about, so you don't need to demonstrate it again? So like,
that's right. That's right. Yeah. ذلك الكتاب. That is the book because it is known. Yeah. From the context, you will tell. You can see. You can sense that this means that is the book. Okay. So the ismul ishara is the demonstrative pronoun. In Arabic, as you can see, they don't call it pronoun, they call it a noun. The thing that you're demonstrating is called musharun ilayhi. Yeah. Just like we had mudafun ilayhi, mudaf, you can see. Here we have musharun ilayhi, the thing that is indicated. Okay. Now, I'm not going to go into this. This is just some grammar here. I'm going to go into that. The thing to remember is you have to use the relevant demonstrative pronoun, and it has to agree in number and gender with the word that it's demonstrating. Okay. Now, the ones that we've done, they will not agree in ending because they're fixed. So هذا هذه هؤلاء ذلك تلك أولئك. I want you to just be able to snap these out. هذا هذه هؤلاء ذلك تلك أولئك. Then practice saying هذا الكتاب, this book. ذلك الكتاب, that book. هؤلاء الرجال, these men. هؤلاء النساء, these women. أولئك الرجال, those men. أولئك النساء, those women. The more pathways you create in your brain, the more quickly you'll be able to snap them out when you need to use them. Okay. Let's keep going. Some more examples. As I said, these are what we call mabni. They're indeclinable, so they're not mu'arab. The endings of these words don't change. So we say fi hadha al-kitabi. Okay, so whatever happens to this word has to agree with this, right? So because this hadha went down because of the fi, but you couldn't express it because the word is fixed on the sukun, so the expression happens on the word that's demonstrated. So you say fi hadha al-kitabi ala tilka al-kalimati, and so on.
What does indeclinable mean?
Okay, indeclinable means that the word is just fixed on its ending. So if you take the word huwa,
yes,
yeah,
yes.
do you ever say huwu or huwi?
No.
No. So this word is in English we say it's indeclinable. It's it doesn't change in its ending.
So the ending doesn't change.
Its ending doesn't change. And the Arabic term for that is mabniyun, which means fixed.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. got more examples here.
Ustad, do we have to remember all these Arabic terms, all these?
No. I don't want you to remember them actually. All right. Not if they're going to
Because
get
we
in
know
your
so
way.
much of the grammar, incidentally, as you said. So it's just all these new words that are going to throw me. I'm a bit worried that I won't remember.
So the purpose of this is not to throw you off. So if you feel that these words are going to throw you off and slow you down, do not learn these grammatical terms if they are going to slow your thinking down when you're speaking, because our objective is to speak Arabic with the endings without thinking. We don't want to slow ourselves down. The reason why we're doing this is just so that you have these are all sort of references. So some of these structures, especially the rare ones, this is more like a reference point where if you come across it in the Quran, we're going to see some of these in the Quran in a minute, and then you'll be able to come back to this and say, so this is the explanation of that verse. Do you see? So it's a tool that will allow you to access more of the Quran. Yeah. Okay. All right. So we have what happens when you have an ishara in an idafa. Okay. Let's have a look. What if we want to demonstrate the last word of the idafa? Now, usually the idafa construction is sacrosanct. You're not allowed to break it. Now, of course, we showed how we can break it with a min, but then it's not really breaking it. It's no longer an idafa. Whereas here, this is still an idafa, but we have ismul ishara in the middle. So you are allowed in Arabic, if you want to demonstrate the last word of the idafa, only the last word. So in a chain, you can't put hadha or dhalika or tilka or ulaika in the middle, except before the last word of the idafa. That's the only place you're allowed to put it in the middle of an idafa, where it's demonstrating the last word. So kitabu hadha talibi, the book of this student. How do you say the end of this week?
نهاية هذه. What does it mean? It should match the week. Right?
It comes after nihayata.
Yeah.
All right. You
It's
got
referring to school.
Because the hadha is referring to the al-usbu', it's masculine. Nihayatu hadha al-usbu'i, the end of this week. That's how we say this weekend. Yeah. Nihayatu hadha al-usbu'i. So you already know how to do this. Okay. You break the idafa. Nihayatul usbu'i is the end of the week. Nihayatu hadha al-usbu'i, the end of this week. Okay. So if you say the name of this girl, ismu hadihil binti. Okay. How do you say the end of this course?
نهاية هذه
الدورة.
نهاية, is it هذا or هذه?
هذه.
نهاية هذه الدورة, the end of this course. نهاية هذه الدورة. Good. أسماء هؤلاء الطلاب, the names of these students. Okay, right. Now what happens if we want to demonstrate the first word of the idafa? What we do then is we put the demonstrative pronoun at the end.
سفرك هذا.
This journey of
كتاب
yours.
طالبي هذا, the book of, so this book, so it's demonstrating this book of the student. Maria, you were saying an example. What's your example?
سفرنا هذا أو
سفرنا هذا. Good. Good. سفرنا هذا. اللهم هون علينا سفرنا هذا. Oh Allah, make easy upon us سفرنا هذا, this journey of ours. Mumtaz. So you put the هذا after an idafa, that makes it demonstrate the first word. So how would I say this book of yours?
كتابك
كتابك.
كتابك هذا. كتابك هذا. Good. And so we have كتابه هذا في كتاب الطالب هذا, and so on. Okay, so think about it. If you put هذا at the beginning, if I say هذا كتاب الطالب, what does that mean?
This is
this book of the student. This is the book of
that gives you a jumla ismiyah, noun sentence. We're going to do more of that next week. This is the book of the student. هذا كتاب الطالب. If I put the هذا in the middle, كتاب هذا الطالب, what does that mean?
A book of this
student.
The book of this student. Good. And if I put the hadha right at the end, what does that mean? This
book of the student.
Of the student. Let's do it again. هذا كتاب الطالب. You translate. هذا كتاب الطالب.
This is the book of the student.
This is the book of the student. كتاب هذا الطالب.
The book of the
student.
The book of this student. كتاب الطالب هذا.
This book of the student.
Book of the student. Mumtaz. Right. Now you could have a situation like this, where you have more than one word, more than two words in Ibafa. اسم كتاب الطالب هذا. So that could
it
mean
can refer to both.
The name of the book.
Yeah, this could be this name of the book of the student, or it could be the name of this book of the student. You see, so there's some ambiguity.
How do the Arabs keep track of all this?
They drop their endings and they don't worry about it.
Most of them
It just seems so much to keep in your head.
How would you resolve the ambiguity here? What technique could you use to make sure that the reader knows which of these words the hadha is referring to?
You'd have to
Put a
break
pronoun in.
You break the idafa, good. So can you do that? Can you say this name of the book of the student? Or this name of the book belonging to the student?
اسم كتابي هذا.
اسم كتابي.
اسم الكتاب هذا.
Yeah. So you say ismu. So you're going to say ismu. Ismu. Those of you who like computer program will love this. Ismul kitabi. This is what you call grammar, right? Ismul kitabi hadha. Right. So you finish your idafa, then you put the hadha. So that's clearly referring back to this. And then you say lit talibi. Yeah. Belonging to the student. All right.
So what's that?
This name of the book belonging to the student.
Okay.
All right, let's move on. Okay, we've got some vocab here. Let's just move on because this is similar to what we did last time, but now we've got some demonstratives. Let's say, let's do this one. This meeting of Muhammad.
محمد هذا.
Good. You put the hadha at the end. اجتماع محمد هذا. اجتماع محمد هذا. Until this meeting of ours.
إلى لقائنا هذا.
اجتماع.
Finish it. حتى اجتماع.
اجتماعنا هذا.
Good. إلى لقائنا هذا أو إلى اجتماعنا هذا until this meeting of ours. Okay, finally, adjectives. We call adjectives wasfun. Wasfun means description. And the noun that's described is called mawsufun. And the adjective is called ismu sifatin or just sifatun. So often they'll just say mawsufun sifa, mawsuf sifa. So you come across the word mawsuf and they say sifa. So you say ma hada mawsuf sifa. This is described and description. Noun, adjective. So they call noun, adjective phrases mawsuf sifa. Very quickly when they're speaking. Now, the adjective, you must remember, must come after the noun it describes, and it must agree with the noun it describes in all four respects, which are G-E-N-D, gend. So G is gender. E for ending. N for number. And D for definiteness. Gend. Good. Gender, ending, number, definiteness. Okay. So let's have a look. If you say kitabun, you say Arabiyyun. If you say al-kitabu, you have to put al on the al-Arabiyyu as well. And if you say hadha al-kitabu, then you have to say al-Arabiyyu. If I say hadha al-kitabu Arabiyyun, what does that mean?
This book is Arabic.
This book is Arabic. You're not going to get an adjective. If you don't put the al here, this word will not be an adjective. Okay? Let's make it feminine. Kalimatun Arabiyyatun, an Arabic word. هذه الكلمة العربية. This Arabic word. Okay, you go down. في كتاب عربي في هذا الكتاب العربي في هذه الكلمة العربية. Whatever you do to the noun, you've got to do the same to the adjective. Let's make them plural. If you want handsome men, you say رجال. The plural of حسن is حسان. حسان. You say رجال حسان. نساء, you say حسينات. Yeah. نساء حسينات وحسنات وجميلات. Make that plural. هؤلاء الرجال الحسان من هؤلاء الرجال الحسان إلى أولئك النساء الجميلات. So whatever you do to the noun, you've got to do to the adjective. It's got to agree with the noun it describes. Now, as you know, there are some nouns that refer to عاقل, and there are other nouns that refer to غير عاقل, irrational things. And those nouns are treated as though they are
Feminine singular.
So do we say buyutun kibarun for big houses?
Buyutun kabiratun.
Buyutun kabiratun. Do we say kalimatun jadidatun?
جديدة.
Kalimatun jadidatun.
Good. Kalimatun jadidatun. Good. All right. So we have kutubun qadimatun. Yeah. Ancient books. Kutubun qayyimatun. Where did I get that from? Kutubun qayyima.
قائمة.
Qayyima. Qayyim. Qayyim means precious, valuable. Qayyim. Where did I get that from? Which verse?
Surah Al-Baqarah.
Yes. Good. What's the verse? I can't remember the beginning of the verse. Kutubun qayyima.
وما تفرق الذين أوتوا
Yeah.
الكتاب.
It's always easy to go forward. It's difficult to go backward, isn't it? Kutubun, let's find it. Kutubun qayyimatun. Kutubun qayyimatun. Yes. Fiha. Fiha kutubun qayyima. See? Kutubun qayyimatun. Not qayyimatun. Qayyimatun. So we have.
When, can I ask? Sorry, Steph. When you're grouping things, for example, you hear it's an adjective, so it's kutubun qadimatun. But before you said we say jami'ul kutubi. So for that you don't need, when you're grouping them, you don't need to make it agree in gender.
When you're saying jami'ul kutubi.
Yes.
Because jami'ul kutubi is an ibafa. It's not a noun adjective phrase.
Okay. Yes.
Okay. So only adjectives have to agree with the noun they describe. All right.
Okay.
Now, sometimes in Arabic we use the feminine plural like this, or treating the non-human غير عاقل plural as though it's a human. So sometimes say kalimatun jamilatun as a kind of personification. You find this in poetry. Yeah. So for example, in the Quran, أَوَلَمْ يَرَوْا إِلَى الطَّيْرِ فَوْقَهُمْ صَافَّاتٍ وَيَقْبِضْنَ. صَافَّات is a human plural, but it's referring to birds. All right, because this is a style of the Arabs. This is one of the uslubs of the Arabs, asalibul Arab. They use this as a style to create a rhetorical impact and effect. You'll find it particularly in poetry, and you'll find it in the Quran as well. Okay, now I told you that when you produce the superlative, you have to use the masculine, right? When you produce a superlative in an indefinite idafa. However, if you want to use the superlative as an adjective, then it will agree. That's where you use the feminine version and the plural version. Okay, so you say al-waladul ahsanu, the handsomest boy. So these two have the same meaning. The meanings are the same. All right. So we have al-bintu al-husna. Yeah. Al-asma'ul husna. You see, you've heard this expression before, haven't you? Yeah. So if you do an idafa, you say ahsanu asma'in. But if you do it as a noun adjective, you say al-asma'ul husna. And this is actually from the Quran. We're going to look at that verse in a moment. Al-ayatul kubra, the big signs, the greatest signs. Al-baytul awwalu al-kalimatul ula. You see? Here you use ula, even though here you use the masculine awwalu kalimatin, and so on. Let's have a look. So we have al-hayatud dunya, the lowest life, al-hayatud dunya. So when you say fid dunya, what we really mean is fil hayatid dunya, in the lowest life, but sometimes we just drop the word hayat and say dunya. Okay, dunya is just the feminine of adna. And then we've got the plurals here. So the plural of ahsanu is ahasinu, al-awladul ahasinu, and the feminine is husnayatun. This alif on the husna converts to a ya when you make the plural, because you can't say husnatun. So we turn it into a ya and say husnayat, al-banatul husnayat. Okay. Just shows you can just put a load of adjectives in a row. Kitabun qadimun saghirun jamilun. You don't have to say wow. It's a beautiful, small, ancient book. You don't have to say you don't say kitabun qadimun wa saghirun wa jamilun. You can, but you don't have to. Okay, got some more examples of adjective chains. Okay, now there are some situations when you want to give an adjective to a proper noun. Yeah, and when you do that, you have to remember to put al on your adjective because a proper noun is definite. And we use this often for titles and epithets. So we'd say Muhammadun al-aminu, Muhammad the trustworthy, Khadijatu al-kubra, Khadija the great. So al-kubra here is being used as a title, and you're going to make it feminine because it's referring back to Khadija as an adjective. Okay, how do you negativize an adjective? In English, you do it with not, an, in, this, and so on. In Arabic, we use غير. And the غير works in an Abdullah or an Ibafa structure to produce what we call a compound adjective. So you could think of this as a not far place. So makanun ba'idun, a far place. Makanun غير ba'idin. We've done many examples of this. And you have to remember that the word ending agreement goes here, but the other three agreements go there. So the gender, a number, and definiteness goes on this word, on the adjective. Only the ending happens on the غير. Right? So في مكان غير بعيد. غير بعيد is actually in the Quran, isn't it? Yeah? In a place not far. غير بعيد. We're going to look at that soon. As you can see here, al-makanu ghayrul ba'idi. If this is definite, then you put the al on this word, not the ghayru. You do not say al-makanu al-ghayru al-ba'idi. You do not put al on the ghayru. This is not allowed. You say al-makanu ghayrul ba'idi, amkinatun ghayru ba'idatin, rijalun ghayru bi'adin. Bi'ad is the plural of ba'id.
So if the definition didn't match, then it would become a noun sentence, right? Like a predicate.
Good. So this one here, if it was al-makanu ghayru ba'idin, then it would mean the place is not far. Okay. Now that's how you negativize an adjective. But if you use ghayru to negativize a noun, it doesn't mean an or not or in or a negativized adjective. It actually means other than. So if I say غَيْرُ kitabin, that means other than a book. غَيْرُ اللَّهِ, that means other than Allah. غَيْرُهُ, other than him. Okay? Often we use this expression to mean other people. So, لَا تَتَكَلَّمْ مَعَ غَيْرِكَ. What does that mean?
I don't speak with anyone except
don't speak. I'm not asking him to speak to himself. I'm just saying don't speak to others. Yeah. So the way in English we say others, Arabs will say غيركم or غيره. Yeah. So they say غيركم. So in modern Arabic, and this is a modern barbarism, It just means that it's not classical. It's the modern usage. You will not find this in classical Arabic. They say al-ghayru, meaning other people. Yeah. So if I say la ta'khudh ashya al-ghayri, what do you think they mean by that?
Don't take anything else.
No. Listen carefully. Ashya al-ghayri. So they're using the word al-ghayru to mean other people.
Other things.
No,
Things
not
of other people.
other people. So la ta'khudh ashya al-ghayri would mean
Don't take anything from
things
other
of other people.
Other
yeah.
people.
don't
Things.
take
It's like
other
telling your
people's,
kids, yeah.
yeah, don't take other people's things. This is not classical Arabic. This is modern Fusha. Yeah. So it's still standard Fusha, but it's not classical. So you'll not find it in the Hadith or the Qur'an or in the classical text. But they use al-ghayru. They break the rule that you're not allowed to put al on the word ghayru, and they make this expression to mean others.
So we can't use it then.
They want to translate the English expression others, probably taken from English. Yeah. So you'll see it. They say, سمعته من كلام الغير. I heard it from what other people are saying. Yeah. Okay. Now let's have a look at what happens to adjectives in the Ibafa. Now, the Ibafa, as we said, is sacrosanct. You cannot break the Ibafa for the purposes of an adjective. What's the only situation where you can put a foreign word in the middle of an Ibafa?
Demonstration.
A demonstrative pronoun, where?
Before the last.
At the end of
Good. Before the last word in the Ibafa, you can put a demonstrative like هذا, هذه, ذلك, تلك, أولئك, and so on. But an adjective cannot. So the adjective has to go after. And the way you know which word the adjective is describing is you look at what it's agreeing with. So كتاب الطالب الجديد, that means the new student's book. Yeah, so al-jadid there is not describing book. But if it was كتاب الطالب الجديد,
the new book of the student.
Good. Now, can you see it's agreeing with this? Yeah. So how come this word's got no al, but that word's got an al?
Because it's definite.
This is defined by the idafa, isn't it?
That's part of the idafa.
Good. So how do you say, what's your noble name?
Masmuka al-karimu.
Good. So ismuka, is that an idafa?
Yes, with ka.
Good. But
Name of yours.
the adjective has to have the al, even though ism doesn't have the al. Does that make sense? Masmukal karimu. Good. So this is agreeing with this. This is the adjective. Masmukal karimu. So the same structure is happening here. Okay. Now if we changed it, you see, now it's agreeing with that. Kitab al-Talib al-Jadidu is agreeing with that. So we have examples here. Asma'ullahi, the names of Allah, al-Husna. Look at that. Yeah, the beautiful names of Allah. This is agreeing with this. Kalimatullahil ulya. So remember, a'la, the feminine is ulya. From the weak superlatives, a'la. So these are the things I do want you to learn. I don't need you to learn the grammatical terms, but I need you to learn the a'la becomes ulya in the feminine. And you will not use ulya when you're doing most 90% of your superlatives or comparatives. You'll only use ulya when you want to use it as an adjective. The kalimatullahi al-ulya, the highest word of Allah. Right? Here we've got the same thing, but now with pronoun idafas. Just move on. More examples. And here, if you put the demonstrative at the end, if you put the demonstrative onto this, you'd put it right at the end. These are very odd expressions. Kitab al-Talib al-Jadidu hada. This new book of the student. Yeah. So this is demonstrating the kitab. That's why it had to go at the end. But it has to go after the adjective. So you put the adjective in first and then the idafa. So how would you say this long journey of ours?
سفرنا الطويل هذا.
Good. The هذا goes right at the end. سفرنا الطويل هذا. All right. So with these principles, always choose the simplest example and just learn that, because that's what gets the system, the idea into your head. Then you can do more complex examples. Always learn the simplest example. سفرنا هذا, this journey of ours. سفرنا الطويل هذا, this long journey of ours.
How about if you do feminine? الرحلة would it be الرحلة
So you say
طولة.
رحلتنا هذه.
If you say long, if you say the long
Yeah. So now,
trip.
okay. So we've done رحلتنا is our trip. How do you say our long trip?
Is it a long trip? أطولة, is it? طولة. It's feminine. I'm trying to convert the أطول to feminine. So I was thinking of little.
But we're not saying أطول, we're saying طويل. طويل is not a superlative. طويل is just an adjective. Yeah. So you're just going to say طويلة, right? أطول, you're right. So أطول means tallest, and the feminine version of it would be طولة, right? طولة, good. So you did that right. طولة. So you'd say the longest journey, you'd say الرحلة الطولة. That's how you say the longest journey. But the long journey would be الرحلة الطويلة.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's move on.
So in superlatives, just a question. This one is not in superlatives. Would it be better to use the Ibafa rather than trying to use the adjective noun, because you have to change gender in that? Is that right?
Yes. So for the moment, yes. Well done.
So it's best to be safe just to use the Ibafa construct, really.
Yeah, I would do that. I would just use the Ibafa with the masculine singular superlative.
Yeah.
Get used to it, and then practice doing the noun adjective phrases. Okay. All right. So here we've got Ismu bintil maliki al jamilati. All right. So can you see this adjective can only refer to the girl because she's feminine. These two are masculine. All right. But if you have a situation like this, is Kitabu Talibi al Jadidi. The word al Jadidi could be describing the student or the book. Yeah. So here we have ambiguity. Does that make sense? Here, if you say Ismu Rabbika al-A'la, Sabbih Isma Rabbika al-A'la. Yeah. So we have Ismu Rabbika al-A'la, the name of your Lord Most High. So al-A'la, linguistically, it could be referring back to the name, meaning the highest name, or the highest Lord. You see? Right? How do you think we could remove the ambiguity?
You have to break the Ibafa.
How do you do that? So how would I say, how would I make sure that this word is describing kitab?
في الكتاب الجديد من الطالب.
Good. So you'd break this idafa, right? So we're going to break this idafa. So we're going to say fil kitab, we're going to put the al back on. Fil kitabi al jadidi, in the new book, lit talibi, belonging to the student. Right? So now how would you say in the book belonging to the new student?
fil kitabi lit talib al jadidi.
Good. Fil kitabi lit talib al jadidi. Very simple. You just break the idafa, you put the adjective after the word you want, and then you just say li for the next word. Okay. Here we are. So this is the example I said I'll come back to. A book of the student. Kitabun lit talibi. I'll give you an example of how we did fil kitabi al jadidi lit talibi, fil kitabi lit talibi al jadidi, and so on. All right, so this brings us to the exercises. I'm going to stop here and go through the Quranic verses now. So let's do the Quran challenge. There we go.
Asad, before we move on, I just have 2 questions, if that's all right.
Yeah, go ahead.
So you know, what is it called? From these handsome men, that was a sentence you gave with ha'ula'i and ula'i. So ha'ula'i rijali, like, do is it necessary to have the alif lam? Is it possible to use it as an indefinite word, especially if it's already defined? Like if you were to say from these handsome men, those men are already defined, right?
So in Arabic, because they're defined, you have to put al on the word you're demonstrating. So this is a very important point I made earlier. So when you say هذا هذه هؤلاء, and then you're pointing at something specific, you have to make sure you put the al on the word you're demonstrating. If you don't, then you'll end up with a noun sentence. You have an is in the middle or are.
But what if it's what if it's say the example from these handsome men, it couldn't, if there was no alif lam on men, it couldn't be from these men are, it wouldn't make sense to say from these men are handsome, right?
That's right, it wouldn't make sense. So
doesn't these like make it definite? I don't know if I'm just confused or I don't know.
Yeah, so what you're thinking is because of the word these is making them definite, why do you need an al on the word men?
No, I get that it can be a noun sentence because it could be these are the men, right?
Yeah, هؤلاء رجال, these are men.
Or these are men. Yeah.
رجال, these are men. But if I'm saying these men, I have to say هؤلاء الرجال.
Okay.
Just like if I say هذا كتاب, this is a book. هذا الكتاب, this book.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want you to learn those two as the definite and the indefinite, and that's it. Don't try to think of anything in between.
Okay. I have another question.
Yeah.
You know, with the indefinite ibafa for the superlative, you know, because the word remains masculine singular, would you still say that it's possessive? Because say for example, like I don't know, what was the example that you gave?
So if I say ajmalu bintin, the prettiest girl, yeah.
Yeah. So would you still translate it as the prettiest of the girls, even though the word is still singular?
No, you wouldn't translate that as the prettiest of the girls. You translate it as the prettiest girl, because if you say the prettiest of the girls, the meaning is slightly different. Then you have a group of girls who are specific and defined. There's 5 of them, and she's the prettiest of them. You see. Whereas if I just say the prettiest girl, then I'm not placing her within a group. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So it's an ibafa, but it's not possessive.
Has to be a plural. If you want to say of something.
Zainab, I'm not sure what your question is. What do you mean it has to be possessive?
You know what? Let me think about this and I'll come back to you.
Okay. What I said is the grammatical structure of the phrase is an idafa. It's a possessive construction. Yeah. That doesn't mean that there is ownership in the meaning.
Okay.
Yeah. Because we're using the phrase as a vehicle to produce a meaning. It's an idiomatic expression.
Okay, yeah, that was my question.
In the same good. So the superlatives are often idiomatic, just like a cup of coffee. Ka'su qahwatin. The cup doesn't own the coffee doesn't own the cup.
Yeah.
So there isn't really possession in the meaning, but it's just the structure that we are using to convey a meaning in Arabic as an idiom. It's idiomatic. Okay?
Yeah, just like that.
All right. Let me bring up our Quran quiz for today. سأشارككم شاشتي. طيب. هذا هو. Okay. All right. Now we're going to look for the shawahid. The word shahid in Arabic means a person who bears witness. The Arabs use the word shahid when they're teaching to refer to the point in the example that is illustrating what the teacher is trying to make an example of, illustrating the point. So the teacher would say, أين الشاهد? So let's have a look. هل تستطيعون أن تجدوا الشواهد في هذه الآية؟ صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. أين الشاهد؟ What have we learned today that appears in this verse? Good. So we've got the غيري negativizing the maghdub. Yeah, غير المغضوب. غير المغضوب in an إضافة construction. ممتاز. All right, what about this one? We referred to this earlier. ذلك الكتاب.
الكتاب.
ذلك, المعنى ذلك هو الكتاب. That is the book. Okay, so you could say ذلك هو الكتاب or just ذلك الكتاب. All right? Okay, so if I said هذا let me give another example. الإسلام هو الحق.
Islam is the truth.
Islam is the truth. Good. الإسلام هو الحق. Now, if I said الإسلام الحق, can you see from the context? You know that I'm just saying Islam is the truth. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because in this context, I'm not trying to convey to you. I'm not saying the true Islam. I'm saying Islam is the truth. Al-Islam al-Haqq. All right. What if I say Inna al-Islam al-Haqq?
Indeed, Islam is the truth.
That's true.
Good. Now, can you see here? Inna al-Islam al-Haqq. How do you know for sure that I'm saying Islam is the truth in that sentence?
Because the subject goes up and the predicate stays default.
Good. So it can't be an adjective.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Mm.
So Inna al-Islam al-Haqq. Because Inna affected al-Islam, and because I didn't say Inna al-Islam al-Haqqa, therefore I'm not using al-Haqqa as an adjective, I'm using it as the predicate, the khabar of my sentence. So it's in different contexts you can tell without the use of the pronoun in the middle. We're going to do more of this next week, inshallah. All right. قُلْ يَا عِبَادِ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. Screen a bit bigger. قُلْ يَا عِبَادِ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا اتَّقُوا رَبَّكُمْ. Say, O my servants who believe, fear your Lord. لِلَّذِينَ أَحْسَنُوا فِي هَذِهِ الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةٌ. أين الشاهد؟
أحسنوا.
Now be careful. أحسنوا, as you can see here, is not a superlative, it's a verb. Yeah, so be careful. أحسنوا means they did well.
Hasana.
في هذه الدنيا. Good. We've got this word dunya, which is the feminine of adna. Adna, dunya. Good. Now
Why
be careful.
doesn't it go down?
You want the dunya to go down, but the dunya ends with an alif. Remember the maqsoor words cannot go down. Words that end with alif mamduda or alif maqsoora cannot have a kasra. Yeah?
But the adjective, it's not an adjective then, the one after it.
No, this is, we've got لِلَّذِينَ أَحْسَنُوا حَسَنَةٌ. So hasanatun is actually the subject of your sentence. So it's hasanatun lilladhina ahsanu, a good reward for those who did well, who did good in this dunya. Does that make sense? You know, we have we can have a jarrun wa majrurun or a shibhul jumla followed by an indefinite subject of your sentence. So I can say something like, is there food in the house? How do you say that? Is there food in the house?
Afil bayti aklun.
Good. Afil bayti aklun. Okay. Do you have a brother?
هل عندك
أخٌ. Good. هل عندك or هل لك أخٌ? Yeah. Does Hassan have a car?
هل عند حسن سيارة?
Good. هل عند حسن سيارة? Good. Well done. هل عند, or you could use a li. هل لحسن سيارة. So that same structure is here. Look. للذين أحسنوا حسنة. You see? This is why the word hasanatun here is in default. Now you've got something in between here. You've got a shibhul jumla. في هذه الدنيا. In this dunya. Yeah, but if you take that shibhul jumla out, the basic sentence is لِلَّذِينَ أَحْسَنُوا حَسَنَةٌ. Does that make sense? You see? So all those, is there food in the house and does Hassan have a car? And you were wondering, why am I teaching all of that? Can you see how that gives you access to the Quran? When you can understand the structure of the Quran and relate it to everyday phrases, it makes it really easy for you. Otherwise, I would explain all of this and it would go over your head, and next time you wouldn't remember anything. Yeah?
Also, what's the translation? If you take away هذه الدنيا, what's the translation of الذين أحسنوا?
It's not الذين, this is للذين.
Oh, للذين.
Yeah, so we've got a shibhul jumla here, we've got a prepositional phrase. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And you've got a li. So in a sense, للذين أحسنوا could just be li. I could just say li. How do you say I have a headache? Li.
Li suda'un.
Li suda'un. Good. So how do you say I have a good thing? Li hasanatun. Right? And instead of saying li, I'm just saying, for me, I'm saying for those who did well, لِلَّذِينَ أَحْسَنُوا حَسَنَةٌ. There we are. Does that make sense? All right. Or, all right, let's just move on. We've got lots of examples. Okay. أين الشاهد? Where is the point?
Can you make the example a bit bigger? It's quite small on my screen.
All right. How do I do this?
You can
Does that
zoom
work?
out as well.
No, it's a lot better. Thank you.
All right. Okay. So I can zoom in. Good. All right. There we are. All right. So we've got الَّذِينَ اتَّخَذُوا دِينَهُمْ لَهْوًا وَلَعِبًا. Those who took their deen, their religion, لَهْوًا, lazily, وَلَعِبًا, and as a game, وَغَرَّتْهُمْ الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا. The low life deceived them. غَرَّ means to deceive. Can you see something here we've seen before? Al-hayatu dunya. Good. Can you see here, because it's being used as an adjective, we have to say dunya. You can't say al-hayatul adna. Yeah. But how do you say the lowest life as a superlative in an ibafa?
Adna al-hayat.
Good. Adna hayatin would mean the lowest life. Remember, it's indefinite. If you say adna al-hayati, that means the lowest of the life. The lowest point of the life. Adna al-hayati, if you make it definite. But if you say adna hayatin, that means the lowest life. So you only get the superlative meaning when you use an indefinite idafa. Okay? All right, let's go to, all right, you have to make it small again and then move to the next one and then make it bigger. All right. اذهب بكتابي هذا. فألقه إليهم. Can you see something we've done?
Go with this book.
With this book of mine.
Ah, yes.
بكتابي
هذا. Can you see? The هذا is coming after the إضافة. بكتابي هذا. This book of mine. If I said هذا كتابي, what would that mean?
This is my book.
This is my book. Good. And when you have an إضافة with a pronoun, can you put the هذا in the middle?
No.
No, because you can't separate the pronoun from the noun, right? So in this situation, you can only have the هذا at the beginning. هذا كتابي, this is my book. كتابي هذا, this book of mine. Okay?
Ustad, how do you tell in the font of the Quran the ya from the alif maksura?
Because you got a kasra here, and so this can't be. It's not kitabay, yeah, or kitaba. So it has to be kitabi. So you'll tell from the vowel before it.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. To the next one. Right. This is Yaqub alayhi salam. Sorry. This is Yusuf alayhi salam, who says to his brothers, "Take idhabu biqamisi." Now, idhabu here doesn't mean go. What does it mean?
Take.
Because if you say idhab and you use the preposition be, it doesn't mean go with, it means to take. The same way if I say ja'a bi, that doesn't mean he came with, it means he
brought.
He brought. Good. So اذهبوا بقميصي هذا.
Take this shirt.
Take my shirt.
Take this shirt of mine.
Shirt of mine.
Good. Again, هذا is after the إضافة. هذا قميصي. This is my shirt. قميصي هذا. This shirt of mine. Good. So he said, فألقوه على وجه أبي, and throw it on the face of my father. يأتي بصيرا. He shall come seeing. Come to me seeing.
Beautiful.
وأتوني بأهلكم أجمعين, and come to me with
Your family.
Yes.
Together.
Good. So وأتوني bi again doesn't mean come with, it means bring, and bring all of your family together. Mumtaz. Next one
is ajma'in. Sorry, in the
ajma'in is
yes
is an alternative for jami'an. Yeah, it's an adverbial usage to mean all together. Yeah,
and it doesn't have a superlative anything, even though it's ajma'. If that makes
it's based on a superlative. Well observed. Let's go back. Yeah. So can you see it's a plural of ajma'u.
So it's in declension.
Yeah. So ajma'u is the superlative from jama'a, right? Ajma'u. So if I say antum ajma'u minna, you are more gathered than us. Does that make sense?
more together.
More together, yeah, more in unison, more gathered, yeah, more together. So
yes.
ajma'u. Now we make the plural ajma'una, yeah, and we use it to emphasize something that's happened before to mean they've done it all together. So we say fasajada al-malaikatu. Listen to this. Fasajada al-malaikatu kulluhum
ajma'in.
Ajma'una.
Ajma'un.
Okay. Ajma'una because it's agreeing with kulluhum, it's default. فَسَجَدَ الْمَلَائِكَةُ كُلُّهُمْ أَجْمَعُونَ. Good. Whereas here it's being used in the up position.
Because of bi ahlikum.
Sorry, afwan. Here it's being used in the down position because it's agreeing with bi ahlikum ajma'ina.
Yes.
Yeah.
It doesn't have a al. It doesn't need one. Or is it an
no, this indicates this is not down actually. If it was down, it would be al-ajma'in. This is not an adjective.
It's an adverb.
This is an adverb. Yes. It's an adverb. It's up. So bi ahlikum ajma'ina. It's an adverb. It's not down. It's up.
So it's fawa'tuni.
Sorry?
So is it saying wa'atuni bi ahlikum ajma'ina? So ajma'ina is going up because of verb.
So ajma'ina is going up because it's describing the manner in which you need to bring them all together. Okay. Having said that, actually going back, the expression ajma'una and ajma'ina doesn't actually need an alif. Go back to the other verse. فَسَجَدَ الْمَلَائِكَةُ كُلُّهُمْ. We don't say al-ajma'una, we say ajma'un. Okay. So the ajma'una is used without an al even in the default. So this actually could be down to as a descriptor of this, or it could be up as an adverb.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Everyone, let's have a look at this. All right. Wassalamu alayya.
And peace be upon me.
Good.
The day I was born, the day I will die.
And the day I shall be raised again alive. Okay. Wassalamu alayya. So you can see ala with the ya becomes alayya. And then you've got the day I was born. So can you see, how do you say peace be upon me on Friday?
Salamun alayya
Yawmul Jumu'ah.
Good. So I say wassalamu alayya
Mal
Jumu'ati. So yawm al-Jumu'ati works in an idafa, right? So what we've done in this verse, what we have here is, instead of saying yawm al-Jumu'ati and do an idafa between yawma and a noun, we have an idafa between yawma and a verb sentence, a whole sentence. So peace be upon me on the day I was born. So I was born is your mudaf ilayh. Does that make sense?
What is the rhetoric of using assalamu as opposed to salamun? Why is it used in the definite here?
Because this is in the dunya. Yeah. Wassalamu alayya yawma wulidtu, on the day I was born. Yeah. Because in the dunya you cannot have perfect peace.
Ah, I see.
Yeah?
Okay.
Okay. So we say wassalamu alayya yawma wulidtu wa yawma amutu. So because this is referring to, these two are referring to
Yes.
days on the earth. Yeah.
Yes.
Yawma ub'athu. Ub'athu is a passive verb. Ub'athu, I will be raised. Ba'atha means to raise.
Form 4. Form 4.
Form 1.
Form 1.
Although the passive of form 4 would also be ub'athu. Yeah.
Okay.
So ba'atha, yab'athu, ab'athu means I send. Ub'athu, I am sent. Yeah. Yawma ub'athu, the day I am sent or I am raised. Hayyan, alive.
Alive.
Yeah. So hayyan here is a hal. It's a hal adverb that goes up.
Ustad, when you have this idafa with the verb, is the verb going to be perfect? Or can it be imperfect?
No, it can be imperfect.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can have yawma ya'ti, the day he comes. Yeah. Anybody think of a verse in the Quran with yawma with an imperfect verb? Yawma. Yawma. Not allowed?
يوم ترى المؤمن.
Yawma tara. Good. The day you see. Yawma tara. Good. There you go. Let's move to the next one. إذ قال الله يا عيسى. إذ means when, but it's always in the past. Yeah. So إذا means when. Also, but إذا is not required in the past. Okay. So in the past, if you're saying when in the past, you say إذ. You don't use إذ for the present or the future. إذ قال الله, when Allah said, يا عيسى أو عيسى إني متوفيك ورافعك إلي. Can you see?
ورافعك إلي.
Good. ورافعك, and I shall raise you إلي. Remember last week we said that the active participle.
Just alif after the first.
Good. So we've got rafi' from rafa'a. So the rafi' is the one who raises, and the active participle is used in Arabic instead of a verb to indicate that this is definitely in the future. So if I say warafi'uka, that has the meaning of sa'arfa'uka for the future. Okay. Warafi'uka ilayya. We've got the ilayya again. We've got the ilayya again down here. Thumma ilayya marji'ukum, and then to me is your return. Marji'.
So Ustad, the fa'ilun form doesn't only mean the doer, but that something definitely will be done in the future.
No, it means the doer, but it's the doer who's going to do it in the future.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So for example, Allah said to the angels, وَإِذْ قَالَ what's the verse? وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ, the إِذ is there again, and when your Lord said to the angels, إِنِّي جَاعِلٌ. Ja'ilun means I will make. Inni ja'ilun. So we have the active participle there because it's referring to Allah is going to do. At that point, Allah had not created the angels. Inni ja'ilun. I will create the angels. Of course, Allah is not subject to time, but this is time from our perspective and the perspective of the angels. Inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa. All right. So the ja'ilun is the active participle. The point I was trying to make is when you use the active participle in this way, you're referring to an action you're going to do in the future. I'm going to be doing this in the future. Inni dhahibun ilal madrasati would mean I will go to the madrasa, not I am going to the madrasa. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, Ustad, can it never mean I am going? Is it always I will be?
Yeah, when you use it, it will mean for future unless you indicate something. If I say أنا ذاهب إلى المدرسة الآن, then I'm bringing it and contextualizing it in the future. Or if I say إني لذاهب, that lam is called the lam of emphasis. That lam also contextualizes it for the future. So if I say إني لذاهب إلى المدرسة, that would mean I'm going to the madrasa now. It's not future.
Ustad, also, I guess the context from the question as well, like أين أنت, the أنا ذاهب إليك, you don't have to say الآن because it's like an answer to a question. So would that be the context?
أنا آت إليك, yeah. أنا آت إليك, I'm coming to you, meaning I'm going to be coming to you. We often use these in the present tense because when I'm saying I'm coming to you, I'm not where you are yet, so I'm going to be carrying on coming to you in the future. Make sense?
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Let's have a look here. We've done that one. That one. Okay. قل أغير الله أبغي. Say, do I desire other than Allah? ربًا, as a Lord. وهو رب كل شيء, and He is the Lord of everything. What can you see here?
غير الله.
Good. So غير here is used with a noun. So does it mean not or does it mean other than?
It means other than because it's used with a noun and not an adjective.
Good. غير الله, other, do I desire? أبغي means desire. Do I desire other than Allah? ربًا, as a Lord. You know, we say رضيت بالله ربًا وبالإسلام دينا. Remember that?
No.
Yeah, so we've got the use of ربًا in exactly the same way here as an adverb, as a Lord. وهو رب كل شيء. What do we have here?
He's the Lord of everything.
Good. He is the Lord of everything. Is this a definite or an indefinite structure here?
Indefinite.
Definite structure, but with a definite meaning.
Yeah.
Good, because the Lord of everything can only be one, even though it's indefinite. And what structure is this?
إضافة, indefinite إضافة.
An indefinite Ibafa. And how many words are there in there?
3.
3. So it's an Ibafa chain. See that? Rabbu kulli shay'in. So kulli had to go down because it owns Rabbu grammatically. And then shay'in goes down, of course, because it's the last owner. And you only have tanween on the last one. Okay? Let's have a look. Now, this is interesting. Look at that. Instead of dhalika, we've got
ذلكم.
dhalikum. So this is another style of the Arabs. So when they use dhalika, they sometimes use the ka for a man and ki for a woman. So I'd say dhaliki, even though I'm not pointing at her, I'm pointing at that, but I'm talking to her. Does that make sense?
You repeat
But this means that you. ذلكم means
No,
that you.
dhalikumullahu. That means that is Allah. The meaning is dhalikallahu, but Allah is saying dhalikum because He's addressing us and saying, and so the kum is for the khitab, it's telling me who He's talking to, as opposed to what He's pointing at. Does that make sense? Because the demonstrative pronoun is only just the dha, and the kum is just an addition. The kum is really actually the pronoun ka, ki, kum. Does that make sense?
So would it be that for you is Allah? Or is
No,
the
no, no.
conscious?
No, the kum, listen carefully. The kum is only telling me that that we are the people He's addressing.
The audience, who the audience
The
is.
audience is telling me who the audience is. So if I point to that door and I say, Dhalikil babu, and I'm talking to you, Amina, now you know that the door isn't feminine, you're feminine. That's why I'm saying dhaliki, but I'm pointing at the door.
Okay, so you're pointing at the door, but you're addressing to me that that's the door.
That's right. And the key is indicating to you that to the listener that you're my audience. I'm talking to you.
Right. Okay.
Okay. So this is something so if you get confused, if you see ذَلِكُمْ in the ذَلِكُمْ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ إِن كُنتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ ذَلِكُمْ, if wondering what's the kum doing there, the kum is just the kum of the khitab. It's telling me who Allah is addressing. That is better for you. ذَلِكُمْ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ. Can you see how much more rhetorical powerful it is if you say ذَلِكُمْ there? ذَلِكُمْ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ ذَلِكُمُ اللَّهُ رَبُّكُمْ.
So when it says Dalika, who is it? Who's the audience? Is it the Prophet or is it Allah?
Yeah, so if you say dhalika, it could be that the audience is a single man, but usually dhalika is just the default. It's just the usage when you're not using this style.
Okay, and you use this style to emphasize the audience, is that why?
That's right, to emphasize the audience and also to create balance and rhyme. So look at dhalikum Allahu Rabbukum. There's an internal rhyme here with the kum and the kum. Yeah. And then we've got again khaliqu kulli shay'in. Khaliqu kulli shay'in. What do we have here?
A chain indefinite idafa.
A chain indefinite idafa. Good. All right. Let's have a look. What do we have here? أين الشاهد هنا في سورة قريش.
رب هذا.
رب هذا البيت. So what do we have here?
So it's like we had نهاية هذا الأسبوع.
Good. نهاية هذا الأسبوع. So we've got the ishara in the middle of the idafa. The idafa is رب البيت, the Lord of the house. رب هذا البيت, the Lord of this house. فليعبدوا. You see the fal. What's the fal used for?
Let's.
Command.
Good. It's like a command. So let them worship. فليعبدوا. That's why we drop the noon. Remember that? Not يعبدون. We drop the noon. We say فليعبدوا رب هذا البيت. So it's an example of the ishara in the middle of the idafa. Okay, hold on. Let's go to the next one. Yeah. ربنا اغفر لي ولوالدي. What's going on here? ولوالدي.
My parents.
Good, my parents. So here, because it's down, because of the li, you don't say liwalidaya. We say liwalidayya. Good. Walilmu'minina, and the believers. Yawma yaqumul hisabu. We did something like this just a moment ago. What do you notice here? Yawma yaqumu.
It's an idafa with a verb.
It's an idafa with a verbal sentence, a whole sentence. Yawma yaqumu, the day that the hisab will stand, the day that the hisab will happen. Okay.
So we always see yawma as the noun. Can it be any noun, or does it have to be related to time? Or
so you'll usually do this with adverbial phrases. Okay. So we have other alternatives. So hina is used like this. Hina yaqumul hisabu, when. So we use the word hina in the similar way to this. Not every word works like this. So for example, you can't say inda yaqumul hisabu. You have to say inda ma, to close the inda with the ma, and then say yaqumul hisabu. Yeah. So you learn through exposure and experience and reading which words can work like this. The other word that works like this is haythu. Haythu yaqumul hisabu, where the hisab will happen. So haythu with a verb after it is actually in an idafa construction. Although in principle you don't need to know that to use haythu, do you?
No, we did haythu tasta'iddu as well.
Yeah, we did haythu tasta'iddu. So haythu means where, and then tasta'iddu is the verbal sentence, and haythu in that sentence is an idafa relationship. Okay? Haythu tasta'iddu, where you are preparing or it is preparing. Okay. قال ربنا تعالى وما تلك بيمينك يا موسى وما تلك بيمينك يا موسى قال هي عصاي.
My stick.
Yeah, we came across this verse before. He said, it is my stick, عصاي. So it's an example of where you have a ya because it's preceded by an alif. Good. So look at this. والذين آمنوا أشد حبا لله. What do we see here?
Superlative.
The superlative أشد.
أشد.
Good. So أشد حبا. Now sometimes, if I said أشد حب, what would that mean?
The
Most severe love.
Severest love.
Yeah, the strongest love.
strongest.
أشد حب would mean the strongest love. Yeah. But what we do is we often use a superlative on its own, so not in an idafa. And then we have something called a tamyiz. We have a verbal noun which we use as an adverb to specify what we mean by the superlative. So if I say أنا أكثر, I am more. More in what? أنا أكثر في المال, I'm more in money, in wealth. Or I could say أنا أكثر مالا. Does that make sense? I'm more in wealth. The مالا there is being used as an adverb. So أنا أكثر حبا, I'm more in love. أنا أكثر وقتا, I'm more in time, I've got more time. أنا أكثر وقتا منك, I've got more time than you. أنا أكثر دراسة منك, I've got more study than you, I've studied more than you. Yeah. هو أكثر علما مني, he is more in knowledge than me. So on. So you can use a verbal noun after a superlative to create what we call a tamyiz. Okay, look at this one. That's interesting. What do you see? First word, tilka. And then we've got tilka rusulu. What do you notice about that? Tilka rusulu.
It's feminine, but rusulu is that? Isn't
okay,
that?
Rusul are messengers, right? It's the plural of rasul.
No, the animate object.
The animate.
Why is it feminine?
Good. So why have we used the feminine tilka with ar-rusulu? This is another style of the Arabs where when they're referring to, when they're doing ishara of male human beings like ar-rusulu, if the plural is a broken plural, yeah, so if it's not a plural that ends with a una, all right, it's a broken plural like rusulun, then we can use it, we can almost do the reverse personification. It's like a reverse personification. We can almost treat it as though it's a feminine singular, as though it's inanimate, and say tilka rusulu. Yeah. That one always felt a bit strange to me, but after a while you get used to it. Tilka rusulu, those, so tilka doesn't mean that, it means those, because it's referring to tilka rusulu. So how would you do this if you use the usual demonstrative pronoun here? What's the usual?
Ulaika, or no, haula. Would they still be feminine if they?
Tilka is isharatul ba'id. Good. Tilka.
ذلك.
Ulaika, because it's plural, right? So, and you'd use the isharatul ba'id, which is dhalika, tilka, plural, ulaika. Yeah. So the plural would be ulaika rusulu, those messengers. But here we have tilka rusulu. So that's why we have tilka. If you've ever wondered why it's tilka, that's the reason why. Okay. وَوُضِعَ الْكِتَابُ. وَضَعَ, what does وَضَعَ mean?
Distribute.
Place.
Place. You know, we say ضع. What does ضع mean?
Place.
Place. Good.
Command.
Yeah.
Good. ضع حقيبتك. Place your bag. So وُضِعَ means it was placed.
Yeah.
وضع الكتاب, the book was placed. فترى المجرمين, so you see the criminals. مجرم literally means criminals. مشفقين, terrified. Can you see why both of these go up? ترى المجرمين مرهقين.
Tara takes two objects.
Good. Just like أراك متعبا. Remember that? أرى المجرمين مشفقين. They both go up. Yeah, you take them away, it would be المجرمون مشفقون, noun sentence. ترى المجرمين مشفقين مما فيه. They are terrified of what is in it, in the book. ويقولون, and they say يا ويلتنا. That's a way of saying, oh how sorrowful is our situation. يا ويلتنا, how wretched we are. ما لي هذا الكتاب. So in the Quran they separated the lam from the ha. If I was writing this in ordinary speech, I would write the ma separate and the lam with the hada. So it would be يا ويلتنا ما لهذا الكتاب. What does the ma لهذا الكتاب mean?
What is in this book?
What is in this book?
Or with
Belongs to this book.
What belongs, is that what okay. If I say ma laka,
Had is for this book.
what if I say to you,
with this
ma bika,
What's with you?
What's wrong
what
with
is
you?
What's wrong with this?
you?
what is about this book? What is with this book?
Yeah.
So ma laka, it means what is wrong with you, or what is with you. Ma bika, what is with you. So it's used like that. Ma li hadha al-kitabi, what's with this book? What's about this book? What does this book have? What power does this have? La yughadiru saghiratan wala kabiratan.
It's not left a small or big.
Good. So the saghiratan and the kabiratan refers to actions. Yeah, it leaves no small action nor big action. Illa ahsaha, except that it counts it. It records it. Wa wajadu ma amilu hadira, and they found what they did present before them. Wala yadhlimu rabbuka ahada, and your Lord does not oppress anyone. So what do we have here? We've got the hadha al-kitab. Ma li hadha al-kitabi. Yeah. So the demonstrative, and the al on the word kitab because it's being demonstrated.
Indi su'alun. So with the fatara al-mujrimina mushfiqina, so you said that the with tara it takes two objects. So does it always have to be one has an alif lam and one doesn't? So for example, if it was al-mushfiqina, would that then change to a sifa? I was just wondering why the mushfiqina doesn't have an alif lam on it.
Because I'm not saying you see the terrified criminals. The meaning is you see the criminals terrified. Yeah. So you could say you see that the criminals are terrified. Yeah. Let me give you an example. So if I say to me, Amina, the weather is cold.
Al-jawa al-bardo.
Let's keep it simple. The lesson is easy. The lesson is easy.
Ad-darsu oh gosh, easy.
Sahlun. Okay. So the weather is cold is al-jawu baridun. Yeah. Or ad-darsu sahlun. Ad-darsu sahlun. The lesson is easy. Now let's say I see that using anna. I see that the lesson is easy. Open question to everybody.
أرى
أن الدرس سهل.
Good. أرى أن الدرس, because anna makes the subject go up, and sahlun will stay in default. أرى أن الدرس سهل. Now I'm going to do the same thing without the anna. I'm going to turn ad-darsu sahlun, both of them, into objects. Ara ad-darsa sahlan. Okay, so ara is a bit like adhunnu. When they have two objects, then the first one is always definite and the second one is always indefinite, because if you took the verb away, you'd be left with a noun sentence. The lesson is easy. The weather is cold. I see the weather is cold. You see?
Oh,
I see that the weather is cold. I see that the weather is cold. I see the weather is cold. Ara al-jawwa baridan. Yeah, the same reason why we said araka mut'aban. Ara al-ustadha mut'aban. I see the teacher is tired. Does that make sense?
No.
Yep.
No.
Okay. So we have here. واكتب لنا في هذه الدنيا حسنة. Okay, what do you see here? في هذه الدنيا. So here, the dunya is referring to what? في هذه الحياة الدنيا. In this low life. That's what you're literally saying. And write for us in this low life حسنة. Why does حسنة go up?
Waktub, object of
You're
what?
writing.
Objective.
Good. It's the
No,
object of waktub. It's what you're asking for.
Waktub.
Yeah. وَلِلَّذِينَ أَحْسَنُوا فِي هَذِهِ الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةٌ. Oh, in the other verse it was لِلَّذِينَ أَحْسَنُوا فِي هَذِهِ الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةٌ. Here, وَاكْتُبْ لَنَا فِي هَذِهِ الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Go to the next one. Okay. Nice and easy. What does that say? لا أقسم بهذا
Baladin.
البلد. Good. So the هذا demonstrates the al-balad. I swear by this town. Notice the style. It literally says I don't swear. Yeah, so the Arabs have an uslub where they say لا أقسم when they mean أقسم. Yeah. It's a style of the Arabs. Okay. This is an example of where we use the plural of the superlative. So what some of you asked, do you ever use the plural of the superlative in an idafa? We do sometimes. Yeah. So instead of saying akbara mujrimiha, remember mujrim means criminal. So mujrimin is the plural. Instead of saying وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَا فِي كُلِّ قَرْيَةٍ, and thus we have made in every village akbara mujrimiha. We could say akbara, the singular, but here we can say akabira mujrimiha. Yeah, and this we use this when we make the idafa definite and plural. Okay, so you say akabira mujrimiha. So this is a definite idafa because there's a pronoun at the end. And we say akabira. That makes sense?
The biggest criminals of her, of the village.
Of it, yeah. Biggest criminals of the village. لِيَمْكُرُوا فِيهَا, so that they may plot in it. وَمَا يَمْكُرُونَ إِلَّا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ, and they do not plot except against themselves. وَمَا يَشْعُرُونَ, and they do not realize. They don't feel it. وَمَا يَشْعُرُونَ. شَعَرَ يَشْعُرُ means to feel or to actually also realize. Okay. Notice the imperfect verb here is negated with a ma, not a la, which is allowed. Okay. Stylistically, you can say ma adri instead of la adri. Okay. So using this principle, how would you say the biggest of the lessons? We make it feminine now. What's the feminine? So in this situation, you can actually use a feminine singular when you've got a plural here. So you'd say, what's the feminine of akbaru?
Kubra.
Kubra, good. So to say the biggest of the words, all right, you could say akbarul kalimati, the biggest of the words. Akbarul kalimati, or you could say كبرى الكلمات. This is actually allowed. It's a rare usage. You would mostly see akbaru there, but you can say kubra in some rare situations. So for most of you, I want you to ignore that because you'll probably never use it. But I have seen it used in some rare places. Okay, that's because some of you are Australian. Yes.
Does the noun always drop on the sound plural when you have an attached pronoun?
Yes. So the noun of the dual and the sound masculine plural drops when it's the beginning or the middle of an ibafa. So when you attach a pronoun to it, you're doing an ibafa. So if I say muallimuna, teachers, if I want to say his teachers, I drop the noun. I say muallimu, drop the noun and say who? Muallimuhu, his teachers. Does that make sense? Yep, so here it's mujrimina. We drop the noun. Mujrimiha. Right, I think we're almost done. Nice and easy one. Inna awwala baytin.
First house.
The first house. Good, you got a superlative with awwala baytin. Wudi'a linnasi. Placed for man. Lalladhi. The la is that lam of emphasis. Yeah. Lalladhi bi Bakkata is the one at Bakka. Bakka was the old name for Makkah. Mubarakan, blessed, wahudan lil alamin, and the guidance for the universe, for the worlds.
Bibakkata, isn't that a proper noun?
Yes.
So why is Mubarakan, Wahudan, are they not adjectives?
Adverbs.
Adverbs.
That's how they were.
Inna awwala baytin wudi'a linnasi lalladhi bibakkata mubarakan. Is it an adjective of awwala baytin? Mubarakan.
The first house is blessed, guidance. Okay.
I'll have to look that one up, whether or not you could interpret this as an adjective of awwala and also as potentially an adverb. Yeah.
SubhanAllah, it works for both.
Let's have a look at this. وَلَقَدْ زَيَّنَّا. زَيَّنَا means to give decoration. زَيَّنَ يُزَيِّنُ. وَلَقَدْ زَيَّنَّا السَّمَاءَ الدُّنْيَا. We have decorated the
heavens and the earth.
The skies of the lower.
Skies of the dunya.
It's not the skies of the dunya.
Lowest.
The lowest sky.
Lowest
because the
sky.
word dunya is an adjective. The lowest sky. Yeah. So the word adna means lowest, feminine, dunya. So here it's not referring to the lowest life, it's referring to the lowest sky. Yeah, so the word dunya doesn't always mean the world. It could just be an adjective referring to something else. Yeah. So if I said, for example, the lowest step on a flight of stairs, I would say ad-darajatu dunya, the lowest step. Yeah.
Ad-darajatu dunya too?
No.
Feminine? No? Doesn't
Dunya
change?
is already feminine. Dunya.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Adna is the masculine. Dunya is the feminine.
Okay.
So, Ustad, is dunya an adjective, but we use it as a noun as well?
Well, we do that a lot in Arabic, where we use adjectives as nouns. Okay, so for example, if I say Aina al-maridu, what does that mean?
Where is the patient?
The patient. Where's the ill person? In English, you have to say ill person. In Arabic, you can just say where's the ill. You can use the word maridun as though it's an independent noun. Okay, so the Arabs use adjectives on their own as nouns. The English do the opposite. We'll take a noun and we just turn it into an adjective without changing it. Yeah. So if I say mountain, is that a noun?
Yes.
Yeah.
If I say mountain goat, is the mountain there a noun?
No, it's an adjective.
I've just turned the word mountain into an adjective without changing it. Okay. So English does that with nouns. Arabic does the opposite. It does it with adjectives. It will take the adjective and just use it as a noun. Okay. Where are we? Here we are. لخلق السماوات والأرض أكبر من خلق الناس. So now we've got this lam of emphasis. Can you see that lam? We saw it later on sometimes when there was an inna at the beginning of the sentence. Okay. So this lam likes to go at the beginning of the sentence. But whenever inna comes along, inna is stronger than the lam, so it pushes the lam further down the sentence. Here we don't have an inna, so we've got a lam. So we've got la khalqus samawati wal ardi. Indeed, the creation of the heavens and the earth. Akbaru min khalqin nasi. So what do we have here? Akbaru min.
Comparative. Greater than the creation of man.
أكبر من خلق الناس ولكن أكثر الناس. What's that?
Most of
the people.
Most of the people. So we've got a superlative used in a definite idafa. Yeah. أكثر الناس, most of the people. That's what we're saying. ولكن أكثر الناس لا يعلمون. But most people don't know. Okay. Are you happy to carry on? We are. What's the time? 9:42. Oh, right. How many have we got left? Let me just see. Oops. Let's stop my share. Let's see which slide I'm on. We're on slide 28, and there are 39. Got about 10 left. Should we finish it?
Come at the show.
I would need to go now, but I'll catch
All
up
right.
on the show.
Okay, if you need to leave, that's fine. Let's just go through it since we've got it here. Those of you who can stay, can stay. The rest of you can just watch the last few minutes of the video, inshallah. All right, let's just finish this off. أفلا يتدبرون القرآن. Do they not ponder the Quran? ولو كان من عند غير الله لوجدوا فيه اختلافا كثيرا. ولو كان, if it were, من عند غير الله. What do we have here?
From other than Allah.
If it were from other than Allah. Good. If it were from other than Allah. So the غير الله means other than, because you have غير with a noun.
And what is the in there doing there?
If it were from other than.
Min is from, right?
All right. If it were from, عند means with, from with other than Allah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it just emphasizes the withness. Okay. Go to the next one. وَأُزْلِفَتِ الْجَنَّةُ. Uzlifa means to be brought close. You see, it's a passive verb of form 4. Azlafa yuzlifu means to bring something close. وَأُزْلِفَتِ الْجَنَّةُ. Jannah was brought close. لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. For those who fear Allah. غَيْرَ بَعِيدٍ. What do we have here?
Unfar.
Not far.
Not far.
Unfar. Like
Unfar.
I like it.
Yeah. Good. غير بعيد. وأزلفت الجنة للمتقين غير بعيد. And the غير, why did غير go up there? What do you think?
Adverb.
It's an adverb. Good. If we were to say close, and Jannah was brought close to the believers closely, I would say قريب. I would say قريبا there. Good. وأزلفت الجنة للمتقين قريبا. Yeah, قريبا would go up because it's the adverb of أزلفت. It's brought close, closely. So here غير بعيد, the غير goes up because this is in Arabic called ظرف مكان. It's an adverb of place. Okay, so the next one. صبغة Allah. صبغة means color. The color of Allah. صبغة Allah, meaning Allah's guidance or His law. صبغة Allah. ومن أحسن من الله صبغة. ومن أحسن من الله.
And what is better than Allah's color, the color
Good.
of
And who is better than
man.
Allah
Okay.
in color? So sibghatan is your tamyiz here. Remember that tamyiz? أنا أكثر حبا لله. أنا أشد حبا لله. So this sibghatan is your tamyiz, it's your adverb. Good. So here we have a comparative. أحسن من الله. Better than Allah. Okay. وَلِلَّهِ الْأَسْمَاءُ الْحُسْنَى. And to Allah belongs the beautiful names. What do we have here?
Noun, adjective.
Noun, adjective. Al-Asma'ul Husna. Good. Why does Al-Asma'u end with a default dhamma?
Because it's matching Allah. Walillahi.
We did this earlier today.
Oh, because it's the predicate. Is that right?
It's the subject. It's the subject followed by Shibhul Jumla. So if I say, I have a name, I would say, Li is
Mun.
Here I'm saying, Lillahi Asma'un. Allah has names. Lillahi al-Asma'u. Allah has the names. Does that make sense? Lillahi al-Asma'ul Husna. Allah has the beautiful names. So whenever you have a prepositional phrase followed by a noun, that noun will be the subject of your sentence.
Okay. So is this called a prepositional sentence? Is that what it is?
No, this lillahi is your prepositional phrase. This whole thing is a noun sentence because you've got a subject. So you've got the beautiful names belong to Allah, right?
Like we had fi usrati ashkhasun kathirun.
Right.
So what is that called? Does it have a special name or is it just a noun sentence?
It's a noun sentence. In that context, fi usrati ashkhasun, li suda'un, indi alamun. Those are noun sentences where the mubtada or the subject is indefinite. But you're allowed to have an indefinite subject there because it's preceded by a shibhul jumla. We're going to do that structure next week in the noun sentence chapter. Okay?
Okay.
Let's come back to that next week, inshallah. Right? In hiya illa hayatuna dunya. So the in here means, what does in mean?
But only.
Indeed.
If.
Inna. Okay, in most of the time means if, but sometimes, especially used with an illa, it means not. Okay, so the in here means la. La hiya illa hayatuna dunya. It is not, but our lowest life. So some people who denied the akhirah, they said there's nothing except the life we live. That's it. Okay, there's no life after death. They said, in here illa hayatuna dunya, namutu, we die, wa nahya, and we live, wa ma nahnu bimab'uthin, and we are not going to be resurrected. So here we have hayatuna, and then we have the al on the adjective, hayatuna dunya, because this is agreeing with this word, which is definite. You see? Yeah, hayatuna ad-dunya, in the same way as we say, ismuka al-karimu. Yeah, and here we've got the same structure, except instead of the in, we've got ma. So with the in, it would be inil hayatud dunya illa la'ibun wa lahun. But here we have ma. Mal hayatud dunya, the lowest life is nothing but la'ibun wa lahu, play and distraction. Lahu.
Could you say that this is a question phrase? And what is the life except, or is it not?
No, this is negation.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Next one. This is beginning of Surah Al-Rum. Alif Lam Mim. Ghulibatir Rum. Rome was defeated. Ghulibat. Fi adna al-ardi. We've got the masculine of dunya now. Adna. What does adna mean?
The lowest.
Good. In the lowest of the earth. So this obviously confounded people before. Why would this say in the lowest of the earth? And I think since then it's been discovered that that place where this battle took place, the lowest place in the earth, yeah, in Palestine, في أدنى الأرض وهم من بعد غلبهم سيغلبون في بضع سنين. And they, after their defeat, will defeat. They will be victorious. في بضع سنين. The word بضع in Arabic means a number between 3 and 7. So the Quran here is prophesying, is predicting that within 3 to 7 years, the Romans will once again defeat the Persians, which they did. Here, look at this. Lillahi al-amru. Can you see that? So this is your subject, it's your mubtada of your sentence. The sentence is essentially al-amru lillahi.
The matter belongs to Allah.
Yeah, but we switched them. And when we switch them, we get this meaning of exclusivity. In the same way as we say, wa alaykumus salam, and may only peace be upon you, gives you exclusivity. Yeah. So when you switch this, you get the meaning of exclusivity. Lillahi al-amru, the matter only belongs to Allah. Okay. وَلَنُذِيقَنَّهُمْ مِنَ الْعَذَابِ الْأَدْنَى دُونَ الْعَذَابِ الْأَكْبَرِ. We shall make them taste from the lowest punishment. Yeah, دُونَ الْعَذَابِ الْأَكْبَرِ, which is lower, less than the highest punishment. لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْجِعُونَ, so that they may return. So this is, what does this refer to? Sometimes we are brought back onto the path by a form of suffering, isn't it? Yeah, sometimes Allah drags us kicking and screaming into His presence by giving us a challenge, giving us some small adab in order to help us to draw closer to Him, to save us from the big adab. وَلَنُذِيقَنَّهُمْ مِنَ الْعَذَابِ الْأَدْنَى دُونَ الْعَذَابِ الْأَكْبَرِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْجِعُونَ. Hopefully they shall return, perhaps they shall return to the path. We have إِنَّ رَبَّكَ يَعْلَمُ أَنَّكَ تَقُومُ أَدْنَى مِنْ ثُلُثَيِ اللَّيْلِ. Indeed, your Lord knows that you stand less than a third of the night. أَدْنَى مِنْ. So what do we have here?
Comparative.
A comparative. Good. What do we have here? وَمَا تُقَدِّمُوا لِأَنفُسِكُمْ. What you send forth for yourselves. مِنْ خَيْرٍ, of good. So the word خَيْرٌ here is used as an adjective. مِنْ خَيْرٍ, or a noun. تَجِدُوهُ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ. You shall find it with Allah. هُوَ خَيْرًا. You shall find it. Then we've got خَيْرًا here, meaning better. You see that? So we've got the same word used as a noun, and then you've got it used again as a comparative. خَيْرًا وَأَعْظَمَ. Here we've got another comparative. أَجْرًا. And here we've got your tamyiz. We've got better and greater in reward. Do we have here? Can you see the shahid? وَجَعَلَ كَلِمَةَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. He made the word of those who disbelieved as-sufla. What's the masculine of sufla?
Asfalu.
Asfalu.
Asfalu. Good. Asfalu means lower. Okay. Asfalu, feminine. Sufla. So here, because it's being used as an adjective, not as a comparative or a superlative in a construct, it's the feminine. What al-kalimatu as-sufla. وَجَعَلَ كَلِمَةَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا as-sufla. He made the word of those who disbelieve the lowest. وَكَلِمَةُ اللَّهِ هِيَ الْعُلْيَا. And the word of Allah is the highest. So a'la is the masculine, ulya is the feminine. And what do we have? سبح اسم ربك الأعلى. That was in the notes, wasn't it? Praise the name of your Lord Most High, or the Most High Lord. Okay. Al-A'la is the adjective of Rabbika. And who said Ana Rabbukumul A'la? In defiance of Allah's verse. Fir'aun said, Allah said, Sabbih isma rabbika al-a'la, and he said, Ana Rabbukumul A'la. I am your Lord Most High. And that brings us to the end of our session today. أرجو أنكم قد استمتعتم بهذا الدرس. هل يوجد سؤال منكم قبل ما نكمل هذا الدرس؟
عندي سؤال أستاذ. It's about the indefinite idafa. I know it's grammatically we view it as indefinite, so does that mean we wouldn't use alladhi with it if we're referring back to it?
That's right. So let me give you an example. So if I say, let's say, I read think of an indefinite idafa that we could refer back to using a subordinate clause.
Could you use it a superlative just so you can see that as well? Because obviously that has a definite meaning. So like the best book which I read it.
This is the best book I have read. That's a nice one. This is the best book I have read. So you say هذا أحسن كتاب قرأته. No الذي. Does that make sense?
Yeah, exactly. It's clear.
هذا خير كتاب قرأته. أنت خير رجل رأيته. What does that mean?
You're the best man I've seen.
You're the best man I've seen. أنت خير امرأة رأيتها.
You're the best woman I've seen.
You're the best woman I've ever seen. Yes. أنت خير امرأة رأيتها قط.
Ever.
Ever. Yes. Ever.
Is
ما
that
رأيت خيرا منك قط.
I didn't see better than it ever.
Or you. I haven't seen better than you ever. طيب. All right. Should we end for the day?
Can I quickly go back to Zainab's question? So
Yes.
how would you say the best girl and the best of the girls? It would have to be plural, right? If you want to say best of something.
Yes. So you say خير بنت, the best girl. If I say
خير البنت,
if I say خير البنت, then I'm saying the best of the girl. I mean, what aspect of her is the best? Is it her character? Is it her knowledge? Do you see? Yeah.
Okay.
So if I say ما أجمل سماء, what does that mean? ما أجمل سماء.
The best of Sama'in.
What is the best sky?
Sky.
What is the best sky? As in the 7 skies, which one of them is the best? Yeah? What is the best sky? ما أجمل سماء. If I say ما أجمل السماء, what is
the best of skies?
What is no. What is the best of the sky? Meaning, what's the best part of the sky? Is it the stars? Is it the sun? Is it the moon? Does that make sense?
Okay.
Yeah. So ما أجمل سماء. What is the most beautiful sky? ما أجمل السماء. What is the most beautiful bracket part, close bracket, of the sky?
Okay.
ما أجمل السماوات. What is the most beautiful of the skies? Make sense? Now be careful. If I say ما أجمل السماء, what does that mean?
What a beautiful sky.
What a beautiful sky. This is ta'ajjub. I'm not now asking a question. I'm expressing. This is an expression. It's expressive. I'm saying, wow, wow, wow. What a beautiful sky. Ma ajmala as-sama. That's not a superlative at all. That's a completely different structure. Okay. All right. Any other questions before we go?
Just another PDF version of those Quran ayats that you meant to send us. Are you meant to send us or?
This will go out to you like we sent out last week. Did you get the last week's one?
No, I didn't receive it. That's why I'm asking. So I didn't
check your junk mail. It was sent out. An email was sent out to everybody.
Okay.
All right. Okay. قولوا معي سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. وجزاكم الله خيرا. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله.
وعليكم السلام.